After regaining the light, I accidentally walked in on my wife's affair. After being blind for 3 years, I unexpectedly regained my sight. I was ecstatic and wanted to tell my wife the news as soon as possible, telling her that I loved her very much. But the next second, I was stunned. My gentle and virtuous wife was hugging and French kissing a good friend who was staying at my house. I suppressed my anger and decided to continue pretending to be blind. "You like to play, right? Then I will play until you are ruined. The last dish is here, eat it quickly, otherwise it will be cold." After my wife Tang Wan brought the last dish from the kitchen, she invited me and Do you to eat. Do you helped me walk to the restaurant with a slightly teasing tone. "Brother, you are so lucky. Your sister-in-law is really virtuous." I smiled without comment. "Your sister-in-law is the best person in the world. I always thought I was unlucky. My ex-wife died of illness, and I was hated by my enemies because of my profession as a lawyer, and I had a car accident on the way home. The car accident didn't kill me, but it made me lose my sight. But I also met Tang Wan, a gentle and kind nanny. She didn't despise my blindness, and took good care of my daughter left by my ex-wife. She led my father and daughter out of that dark period and never left us. After I was discharged from the hospital, I proposed to Tang Wan. Since then, happy life seems to have returned." My wife's coquettish voice interrupted my memories. "Come on, eating can't stop your mouth." I smiled and didn't answer. Instead, I reached out with emotion and wanted to hold Tang Wan's hand. After groping for a long time, I touched her slightly cold, soft hand. "Why are your hands so cold? Let me warm them for you." But Tang Wan hurriedly pulled out her arm, with a tone of impatience. No, eat quickly." I was stunned for a moment, but after thinking about it, I didn't think there was anything wrong. Tang Wan was very thin-skinned and had never been used to being intimate with me in front of others. However, this is not a shortcoming. If there is a shortcoming, I am blind and can't do anything, which is the biggest shortcoming of this marriage. I quietly ate the food that Tang Wan picked for me on the plate. "Brother Lin, have you eaten? I'll clean the table." I nodded quickly. "Thank you for helping your sister-in-law." Do you smiled heartily. "It's my duty, brother. If you hadn't taken me in to live in your house, I'm afraid I would be sleeping on the street now. Society is cruel. When I was blind and went abroad to handle the last case, I accidentally got separated from Tang Wan. It was Do you who appeared and helped me, who was isolated and helpless. I will naturally do my best to repay him. So after learning that he was unemployed and couldn't pay the rent, I let him stay at home. I patted his shoulder at that time, just as he had helped me. "It's okay, you can live with me in the future, as long as you want." Just like that, Do you moved into my house. But he didn't live there for nothing. He almost took care of all the housework in my house. He understood people's hearts and human nature very well. When he helped me, he didn't treat me as a disabled person. Instead, he used himself as an excuse to take care of my fragile self-esteem. I have met many people, but it is rare to find someone like Do you who knows how to advance and retreat, knows etiquette, is cultured, and can humble himself. So my wife and I are very happy about his arrival. Just thinking about it, Do you suddenly came over. "Brother Lin, everything is packed. I'm going to walk the dog downstairs. You should go to bed early." After Do you moved in, he would walk the dog every day after dinner, leaving enough time for us to be alone. It gives a very good impression. Okay. It wasn't long before the sound of the door lock opening and closing was heard. Do you should have gone out. One. Tang Wan responded softly, "What's wrong? Go to my mom's place to pick up Yi Luo tomorrow. School starts the day after tomorrow, so we can't play anymore." After I finished speaking, Tang Wan didn't respond for a long time. However, a strange smell suddenly floated to my nose. I held my breath, but at the same time, I heard a suppressed sound. "What's going on?" I frowned in confusion and was about to ask, when Tang Wan's hurried voice suddenly came. "I know, I'll pick her up tomorrow. Aren't you sleepy? Go to bed." Before I could ask more, my mind suddenly became chaotic, and an unprecedented sleepiness came over me, so I didn't bother to ask questions. I responded casually and groped my way upstairs to sleep. It should be the aftereffect of the surgical anesthesia. I heard that general anesthesia does have a bad effect on the human body. I guess my sleepiness after dinner is one of the sequelae. But when I was trying to get on the bed, I accidentally knocked over the vase on the bookshelf. The vase hit the back of my head hard and then bounced onto the bed. It didn't break, but it knocked me out. Hiss. I closed my eyes tightly and covered the back of my head in pain. It took a long time for me to stand up. But when I opened my eyes again, I stared blankly at the grain on the wooden floor. I paused for a long time and looked up again. The ceiling. The bed. The bedside table. I can see. After confirming it for a long time, I jumped up from the ground excitedly. I kept covering my eyes to test, and after making sure that both eyes could see, I didn't care about the pain in the back of my head and rushed downstairs in 2 steps. The first person I want to share this great news with must be Tang Wan. I want to thank her. Tell her that I love her very much and her company has finally paid off. I can return to the top of the legal profession, and I can let her live the life that other women dream of. But the next second, I froze halfway up the stairs. The 2 naked figures entangled on the sofa made me swallow all my excitement back into my stomach. It was Du and my wife, Tang Wan. What? They are the 2 people I trust most in my darkest time. How could this happen? I stood there blankly, looking at the 2 overlapping figures in disbelief, clenching my fists at my side, and anger instantly filled my chest. Anger hit my brain. A buzzing sound rang in my ears, making my heart beat so fast that I almost fainted. After a long time, my breathing calmed down a little. Looking at Du's skilled appearance, he must have performed live spring and palace in front of me many times while I couldn't see. I was so angry that I trembled all over, and I couldn't say a word for a long time with my mouth open. Now that I think about it, I always feel sleepy after eating. I guess they put drugs in my food to make it easier for them to do things. What a pair of bastards. You like to play, right? Then I will play until you are ruined. Chapter 2. I suppressed the anger in my eyes and pretended as though nothing was wrong as I walked downstairs, casually knocking over the vase at the corner. The loud crash startled the 2 of them. Both of them immediately pushed away from each other, grabbing cushions from the sofa to cover themselves. I could see it clearly. Du's elegant and gentle face twisted slightly, while Tang Wan hurriedly covered her body after he pushed her off. I froze for a moment, my fists clenching tightly. They quickly realized that I was blind. I spoke in a cold voice, Tang Wan. Tang Wan snapped out of her daze, noticing that I was standing right beside them. The flush on her face disappeared instantly, and panic clearly swept over her. Du, trying to conceal the situation, mouthed, "He can't see," and then lowered his voice deliberately, "What's wrong, honey? Didn't you go to sleep upstairs?" I tightened my fists, forcing my voice to remain steady. "I couldn't sleep. I came down to keep you company, but I think I heard a strange noise. Is there anyone else in the house? Where's Du?" As I spoke, I took a step forward toward the sofa, getting closer to sitting on Du. Tang Wan hurriedly pushed Du. He fell to the ground, unable to turn over due to the space between the sofa and the coffee table, looking like a turtle on its back. After a few moments, Du managed to get up, and only then did Tang Wan stammer in reply to my question. "Du went downstairs to walk the dog, didn't he?" She pointed toward the door, subtly indicating Du should leave. "Okay, then where's the water you poured for me? I'd like a drink." Before Tang Wan could speak, I pretended to be unaware, standing up and feeling for the cup of hot water on the table. This was the water Tang Wan had poured for me before I went upstairs. I had intended to drink it when I woke up, as it was the perfect temperature, and now, it was just in time. Du stood not far from me, struggling to find his clothes. With no other choice, he stood on tiptoe, trying to sneak around me from behind the sofa. I pretended to be clumsy and accidentally spilled all the hot water on Du's bare body. I stared coldly at him, my voice as indifferent as could be. "Du? Is that you? Didn't you go downstairs to walk the dog?" Du's face turned pale as he grabbed his crotch in pain and fell back onto the sofa, silently writhing. "My brother, I came back to get something. When I saw you and my sister-in-law, I didn't say anything." Tang Wan was startled. She rushed forward, grabbing the cup from my hand, and scolded me with a frustrated tone. "What are you doing? You spilled boiling water on him. She paused, perhaps afraid I would get suspicious, then quickly added an explanation to defend you. Do you said he forgot his phone and came back to get it. I gave a soft millimeter, but hearing Tang Wan lie to me made my heart ache painfully. No wonder I didn't hear your voice earlier. I'm sorry. Was it a bad burn? I muttered under my breath, hoping the burns were severe enough to cause permanent damage. Du's face was still pale, but he bravely tried to comfort me. It's fine, bro. The burn's pretty bad, though. I'll buy you a temperature-controlled water dispenser. Next time, you won't have to drink water that's too hot. In the past, whenever I made a mistake due to my blindness, Du and Tang Wan would console me in this same way. After their comfort, I always felt guilty and would agree to their requests without hesitation, even paying for Du's house down payment without a second thought. Now, I finally understood the truth. Every time something went wrong, they would exploit my insecurity and guilt to extract a large sum of money from me. If I had been kept in the dark this time, I would have ended up paying Du's medical bills and reimbursing him for the water dispenser. But unfortunately, this time their scheme was going to fail. Alright, thanks then. I didn't mention anything about the money, and Du's face darkened, exchanging a look with Tang Wan. Tang Wan immediately understood and pretended to be considerate, taking my hand and speaking softly. Honey, don't make Du pay. He's the one who got hurt, and he's still thinking about you. Why don't you just pay him later? I stared at Tang Wan's confident smile, my heart aching so much it felt like I couldn't breathe. To her, this wasn't a big deal at all. After all, for so many years, I had always complied with her every wish. Buying a house for her brother wasn't even a challenge, let alone paying for a water dispenser. I silently withdrew my hand. Fine, you pay him for now. I'll reimburse you later. When they saw the as-expected look on their faces, I changed the subject. But that noise earlier really startled me. Don't do that again. I can't see, and it unsettles me. Lucky for you, I didn't reach for a knife. With that, I took out the Swiss Army knife I kept for self-defense. The moment the words left my mouth, both of their faces went visibly pale. Finally, Du gritted his teeth and spoke, Har har har, bro, you're so brave. Don't worry, if there were ever a thief in the house, I'd make sure to protect you and sis-in-law. I internally sneered. Whether he would protect me or not was a different matter. Sis-in-law would definitely protect me, she already had, in the worst way possible. As Du spoke, he gritted his teeth and reached behind, grabbing Tang Wan's rear. Tang Wan's face turned crimson, but there was no trace of reproach in her eyes, only concern. A fine electric shock seemed to spread from my heart to my entire body. Being stabbed in the back by the two people I trusted the most, it was impossible to say that it didn't hurt. Alright, stop talking. Du's badly burned, I'll take him to the hospital. You take care of yourself. With that, she pulled Du's arm and led him out of the house. Once the door closed behind them, I couldn't hold back any longer. I smashed everything in sight, releasing the fury that had been boiling inside me. Scum! I trembled as I looked at my blooded hands, cuts from the shattered glass stinging with pain, my eyes red as I silently cried. Suddenly, my emotions halted. No. I couldn't fall apart like this. I still had Elor. Lynn Elor, my one and only precious daughter. For my daughter, I had to hold on. My money was meant for my daughter, there was no way I was going to let that pair of scumbags benefit from it. I painstakingly recalled all the details about my daughter, trying to think if anything had been wrong. It wasn't until then that I suddenly realized. Since Tang Wan had come into my life, she had been the one picking my daughter up from school. Not long after I married Tang Wan, my daughter started to become less talkative and less willing to be close to me. At the time, Tang Wan had reassured me, saying that girls grow up and it's natural they don't want to cling to their fathers anymore, so she'd spend time with her. I had been so moved, and without hesitation, I agreed to buy her brother a house in the city, using my entire life's savings to pay for the down payment and even continue to pay the mortgage. Something's wrong. Tang Wan had issues. Was Elor being mistreated? A massive wave of panic overwhelmed me, and my fingertips felt icy cold. I quickly took out my phone and called my mom for a video call, but no one answered for a long time. My hands were trembling so much I could hardly hold the phone. I hesitated for a moment before dialing my daughter's boarding school teacher's number. Finally, after a few rings, the call connected. Hello. I hurriedly spoke. Teacher, I'm Lynn Eloor's father. Is Eloor at school? The teacher paused. She's at school. Is something wrong, Mr. Lynn? Well, I'm going to have surgery again, and I really miss my daughter. Even though I still can't see, I'd like to hear her voice. Could you please find her and arrange a video call? Okay, just wait a moment. I'll get the video call ready. The teacher hung up. While she went to find my daughter, I quickly changed into clean clothes to make myself look less disheveled. Just as I finished, the ringtone for the video call sounded, hitting me like a heavy blow. I jumped, my heart pounding. I nervously answered the call, but when I saw the screen, I froze in place. The phone slipped from my hand and crashed to the floor. A cold chill rapidly spread up my legs, freezing me completely. The girl on the video call wasn't my daughter at all. Chapter 3. The anxiety and fear in my chest left me weak and trembling. I had noticed changes in my daughter's voice before, but Tang Wan had reassured me that it was simply the voice change period for girls. I had dismissed my doubts. But now, it seemed my daughter had probably been taken away by them a long time ago. My eyes were red, my fists clenched as I slammed them into the bed beside me. Just as I was sinking into my despair, a puzzled child's voice came through the phone. Dad. The imposter daughter must have thought I couldn't see, still trying to use a high-pitched voice to call me Dad. My emotions were tangled, but I pretended not to notice, fumbling to grab the phone and said a few words before hanging up. My daughter's disappearance made me completely lose control. I smashed my phone in fury, but once it broke, I regretted it and held my head in despair. I should have called the police sooner. Why? Why am I so stupid? After a long while, I managed to calm myself. I grabbed my cane and stumbled out the door, heading toward the nearest police station. But in my rush, I didn't pay attention to the traffic lights and was knocked several meters away by a black car. Thankfully, the car wasn't going too fast. The driver stopped quickly, and I fell to the ground. Though the height wasn't much, the impact still caused a sharp pain in my knee. I ignored the pain, my only thought was to go to the police station to find my daughter. But just then, a hand grabbed my wrist. I quickly turned my head and was met by a pair of beautiful dark eyes. The woman before me had long hair, a tall figure, and her features bore a striking resemblance to my late ex-wife. I froze in place. Sir? I'm so sorry, did I hit you? Are you blind? The woman helped me pick up my cane. Realizing I had been impolite, I quickly lowered my head to take it, murmuring my thanks. I'm sorry, I didn't see the light, I ran the red light. It's not your fault. Her expression changed immediately, and her tone shifted. You can see. Are you faking it? She gripped my hand harder, and I grew impatient. Sorry, I'm in a hurry. My daughter is missing, and I need to go to the police station. Please let go of me. The woman's expression froze for a moment. Your daughter is missing? But the nearest police station is 8 or 9 kilometers away, and there are no cars around. How will you get there? Run. Her words hit me like a hammer. It was the height of summer, and I had been cooped up at home for so long without exercise. Walking all the way to the police station under the blazing sun would nearly kill me. After a moment's thought, I clenched my fists and kneeled straight in front of her. Please, take me to the police station. My daughter is missing. I must find her. She is the only child my late ex-wife left me. The woman quickly helped me up, her expression shifting between concern and hesitation. Finally, she sighed. All right, get in the car. I'll take you. Once I got into the car, I noticed her name tag on the dashboard. Wang Ruohan. Miss Wang, thank you. I'll definitely repay you in the future. Wang Ruohan smiled and shook her head. You're a good father. I hope you find your daughter soon. Before I got out of the car, she asked for a photo of my daughter and took down my phone number, saying she would call me if she saw her. I thanked her profusely before rushing into the police station. Officer, my child is missing. Please help me find my daughter. The officer I grabbed by the arm frowned and looked me over. Calm down, take your time. How old is your child? I quickly pulled out my phone to show him a photo of my daughter. But as I glanced up, my eyes fell upon two familiar figures that felt like a nightmare. Tang Wan and Jiu? What were they doing here? They were holding an envelope and had just come out of the records room, their eyes meeting mine as they followed the sound of the police officer's voice. They exchanged a glance, their faces filled with suspicion. They quickly walked toward me, and I tucked my phone away, clutching my cane tightly, pretending not to see. Tang Wan spoke first. Mo Chen? What are you doing at the police station? I feigned confusion. Wan? Didn't you take you to the hospital? Tang Wan paused for a moment. We just came from the hospital. We got a call from my brother saying he needed help with a property transfer, so we came to get some files. What about you? What do you mean your child is missing? Tang Wan stood in front of me, her gaze filled with confusion as she stared at me. I looked back at her with empty eyes, but at the same time, I saw nothing but coldness and suspicion in her gaze. My heart tightened. It's the dog, Mao Hai. Do you forgot to bring him back, and I can't find him anywhere. At the mention of the dog, most of Tang Wan's suspicion seemed to dissipate. Oh, the dog. She was well aware of how much I cherished that dog. During the time when I had felt utterly defeated, Mao Hai had been by my side, obediently licking my hand to comfort me whenever I was enraged. So, it wasn't strange that I would report the dog missing to the police. The officer interrupted our conversation. What dog? Tang Wan smiled and apologized. Sorry, officer. Mao Hai is our dog. My husband loves him a lot. He's probably just worried because he can't find him. The officer frowned. All right. You two go ahead and look for him. We can't file a report for a missing dog. With that, he walked away. It's fine, I left Mao Hai at the pet store for a bath. There's no way I'd lose him. Don't worry. You spoke lightly, but his expression was dark. As he spoke, he waved his hand in front of my eyes, as if testing my sensitivity to light. Is that so? You really scared me. Next time, make sure to tell me. I forced a smile and held my composure, which made you stop waving his hand. He smirked. Yes, my bad. I won't do that again, don't worry. I nodded. Just as I was about to leave the police station, you suddenly pulled a pen from his pocket and moved it dangerously close to my eyes. He stopped just a centimeter from my eyeball, and his expression was filled with malice. It was so quick that I didn't have time to react. It was as if once I regained my sight, I would be an obstacle to eliminate. I clenched my fists, doing my best to suppress my reaction. Thankfully, I had been blind for so long that I couldn't react quickly enough to his movement. To him, I probably appeared completely calm. But only I knew that my heart was pounding violently in my chest. When Tang Wan saw that I hadn't reacted, she quickly grabbed Yu's hand. You frowned but finally put the pen away, silently mouthing to Tang Wan, he really can't see. I secretly sighed in relief. Let us go, let us head home. After leaving the police station, Tang Wan helped me into the backseat. She and Yu got into the front seats, one on each side. The car stopped midway at a tea house, and after a passionate kiss between Yu and Tang Wan, he turned to glance at me in the backseat. Brother, I've got something to do. You and Wan head home first. I smiled but didn't speak. Instead, Tang Wan patiently reminded me, okay, remember to come home early. As the car door closed, I couldn't help but scoff, I almost thought he was your husband. Tang Wan glanced at me through the rearview mirror, her expression full of disdain, but her tone held a hint of teasing. Jealous? Wasn't it you who left him at home? I froze for a moment, then retorted, what if I tell him to leave now? What do you think about that? Chapter 4. Tang Wan was stunned. Seeing the anger on my face, she showed a curious look. After all, I used to trust her and you very much, and I didn't care about their affairs. There has never been a situation like today. I certainly saw the suspicion on her face, especially after what happened today at the police station. What a coincidence. It's such a coincidence. So, I could only suppress my anger and pretend to be jealous and say, I am your husband. You have already married me, so you should be more careful. After hearing this, Tang Wan breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, I don't know anything about them yet. Her eyes were clearly full of mockery towards me, but she pretended to be panicked and reached out to hold my hand. Hubby, don't be angry. I will be more careful in the future. Don't take it to heart. Tang Wan lowered her posture and spoke as gently as possible. When I got home, Tang Wan seemed like a different person. She diligently poured me water, cut fruit for me, and asked me about my well-being. Honey, are you hungry? Can I go cook for you? I pretended to be touched and held her hand. Wanwan, you are still good to me. Silly girl, of course I treat you well. Who else can treat you well? Tang Wan said with a smile, but her tone carried a barely perceptible hint of perfunctoriness. At the dinner table, Tang Wan kept picking up food for me and mentioned you from time to time, saying that he was starting a business recently and it was very hard work, and he was having some difficulty in cash turnover. Of course I knew what she was up to, so I asked casually, oh? What kind of business does he do? He said he was doing e-commerce. I don't know the details, but isn't this popular among young people nowadays? Tang Wan said, secretly observing my reaction. E-commerce. That's great. E-commerce is really popular now, but it also costs a lot of money. Does he have enough startup capital? I asked with pretended concern. Oh, that's right. We're almost there. If we can turn it around, we can make a lot of money. Tang Wan said with a gleam in her eyes. I knew she was going to set a trap for me. I put down my chopsticks and pretended to be thoughtful. Is that so? That's really a pity. Wanwan, do you think we should help him? Really? You're so nice, husband. Tang Wan almost jumped up with excitement when she heard it, but she quickly restrained herself. However, this is his business after all, we can't interfere too much. You can't say that. You and I are good brothers, so I'll help him if I can. I interrupted her with a sincere tone. But Tang Wan wanted to say something else, but I interrupted her directly. Don't say buts, don't worry, I will find a way. I deliberately said the three words, find a way, in a meaningful way, and Tang Wan immediately understood what I meant, and a triumphant smile appeared on her face. In the next few days, Tang Wan kept asking me in roundabout ways how I was going to find a solution. I pretended to be in a difficult situation the whole time, saying that I couldn't make ends meet and then that the investment risk was too high. In short, I was reluctant to give in. Tang Wan was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan, but there was nothing she could do. I sneered in my heart, trying to play tricks on me. You are still a little naive. In order not to alert the enemy, I appeared to be concerned about Tang Wan and you, but secretly began to prepare my revenge plan. I installed hidden cameras and recording equipment in my home to see everything they did. I want to see what disgusting things this couple can do right under my nose. Honey, what are you looking at? You look so absorbed in it. Tang Wan's voice suddenly came from behind, with a hint of coquettishness and a hint of temptation. I suddenly came to my senses and quickly minimized the surveillance image on the computer screen, which showed the living room of Duyu's rental house. Nothing, an email from the company. I answered calmly, but my heart beat faster involuntarily. Oh, company matters are important, but don't be too tired and take care of your health. Tang Wan said, walked behind me, stretched out her hands and gently rubbed and pinched my shoulders. I closed my eyes, enjoying her tenderness, but sneered in my heart. Keep pretending. By the way, husband, what do you think about you's situation? Tang Wan asked tentatively, with a barely perceptible hint of urgency in her tone. I opened my eyes, turned to look at her, and asked in a puzzled manner, what's wrong? It's what you said last time, about helping him with investment. Tang Wan explained, her eyes a little evasive. I pretended to be in deep thought for a while, then sighed and said, well, it's not that I don't want to help, it's just that the company is having a hard time with cash flow recently, and I'm in a difficult situation too. Is that so? Tang Wan's tone was obviously disappointed, but she quickly returned to normal. It's okay, husband, I know you have tried your best, and you won't blame you. Well, I'm glad you understand. I nodded, but sneered in my heart. Understand? If you really understood, you wouldn't mention you in my ears every other day, and you wouldn't make love with him in bed behind my back. Honey, I want to sleep alone tonight. I haven't slept well these past 2 days. Tang Wan suddenly said, with a hint of coquettishness in her tone. I sneered in my heart. Poor sleep. I guess it's because I didn't sleep well with you. Okay, then I'll go to the second bedroom. I said calmly, but I had already started thinking about my plans for the evening. No need, husband. It's more comfortable to sleep in the master bedroom. You should go to bed early. Tang Wan said, kissed me lightly on the face, then turned and left the room. I looked at her leaving back, a sneer appeared on the corner of my mouth. Tang Wan, let's play a game of cat and mouse tonight. As night fell, I couldn't sleep at all. I turned on my phone and clicked on the monitoring software, and the screen showed my second bedroom. Fortunately, I had the mentality of making sure nothing could go wrong and installed cameras in every corner of my house. The second bedroom was empty, and I waited patiently, waiting for the prey to fall into my trap. Time passed minute by minute, and finally, at around 11 o'clock in the evening, the door was opened. Tang Wan and Du walked in, talking and laughing, their faces were slightly flushed, obviously they had just relaxed outside. As soon as she entered the door, Tang Wan couldn't wait to hug Du's neck and offer him her hot red lips. Du also responded enthusiastically, with one hand wandering restlessly on Tang Wan's body. I sat in front of the computer, watching everything on the surveillance screen, and felt my blood boiling. This pair of bastards were having an affair so blatantly right under my nose. I clenched my fists, my knuckles turning slightly white from the excessive force. Chapter 5. I want to see how long you can continue to be so arrogant. In the picture, Tang Wan and Du had already started tearing each other's clothes. At this moment, Du seemed to suddenly discover something and push Tang Wan away. What's wrong? Tang Wan looked at him in confusion. Du did not speak, but pointed to a corner of the ceiling and said with an unpleasant expression, "What is that?" Tang Wan followed his gaze and her face turned pale instantly. Fuck. I couldn't help but curse under my breath and hurriedly tried to turn off the surveillance screen. Oops, the camera seems to be stuck. At this moment, Du suddenly jumped up like a cat whose tail was stepped on, pointing at the camera on the ceiling. His voice changed. Why is there a surveillance camera here? Tang Wan was also panicked. Her face turned pale and she stammered, This. My heart skipped a beat. It's over. I've been discovered. Soon. There was a sound of hurried footsteps from the other end of the living room. Alarm bells suddenly went off in my heart. Tang Wan must be testing me again. This woman is not someone you can easily deal with. If she finds out anything, we'll be in trouble. A moment later, Tang Wan pushed open the bedroom door. Honey, why haven't you slept yet? Tang Wan asked with concern. I looked at her and sneered in my heart. This woman, she pretends to be so convincing. I sighed and pretended to be wronged and said, Wife, I've been thinking about you and I can't sleep. Tang Wan looked at me suspiciously, as if she didn't quite believe my explanation. Why are you installing surveillance cameras in the second bedroom? Sure enough, she came to ask for punishment. But in a short period of time, I have already thought of a response. I gently put my arm around her shoulders and said softly, You know how I was so worried when our pet got lost last time. I wish I had a camera at home so I could find out where our pet went and I wouldn't have to bother you looking for it everywhere. As I spoke, I secretly observed Tang Wan's reaction. I saw that the expression on her face gradually relaxed and her eyes became much softer. Really? Tang Wan asked softly. I nodded and sighed in disappointment. It's all my fault. I'm blind and can't do anything. I can only cause you trouble. Okay, I believe you. Tang Wan interrupted me, then gently pushed me away, turned and walked into the second bedroom. I looked at her back, a sneer appearing on the corner of my mouth. Tang Wan, do you think you have really won? This is just the beginning. Tang Wan twisted her butt and walked into the second bedroom. I heard a series of ping-pong sounds, probably thinking she was checking something. After a long while, I closed my eyes, listened to the sound of water coming from the bathroom, and sneered in my heart. Tang Wan, do you think that if you take the camera apart, I will be helpless? The next morning, Tang Wan dressed up beautifully and went out, saying that she was going to the company to take care of some things. I lay on the bed, listening to her fading footsteps, a sneer appearing on the corner of my mouth. I immediately placed an order for the mini camera online. This time, I wanted to be absolutely sure. In the afternoon, my cell phone rang. It was a text message from the courier, reminding me to pick up the package at the door. I was delighted because my newly bought mini camera had arrived. I held the camera, which was smaller than a fingernail, with a smile on my face. This time, I'm going to make sure you two dogs have nowhere to hide. I hid the camera in the air conditioning outlet of the bedroom. It is hidden and safe here, and that stupid woman Tang Wan will definitely not find it. After doing all this, I was in a good mood. I hummed a little tune, cooked myself a bowl of instant noodles, and waited to watch the show in the evening. In the evening, Tang Wan came back and asked me impatiently as soon as she entered the door, "Honey, what have you thought about? Do you is very anxious, you see." I put down my phone, pretended to be embarrassed, and said, "Wife, it's not that I don't want to help. You know, I'm a lawyer. How can I know any big shots in the investment circle?" Tang Wan came over and sat next to me. While massaging my shoulders, she said in a tone that gave me goosebumps, "Oh, husband, please help me. Do you said that as long as you are willing to help introduce me, I will give you 50,000 yuan after the matter is completed." I sneered in my heart. $50,000? Are you sending away beggars? What I want is for you two to be ruined. Wife, it's not that I won't help you. You know, I'm a relatively honest person and I'm not good at dealing with those old foxes in the business world. If I mess up, not only will I not be able to help you, but I'll also get myself involved. That would be more trouble than it's worth. I pretended to be timid and fearful, and Tang Wan was fooled. She hugged my neck and said tenderly, "Honey, don't worry, I'm here, I promise I won't make things difficult for you." I sneered in my heart, "You are here. It is because of a fickle, treacherous woman like you that I am afraid." Well, okay, I'll give it a try, but you know, I don't know many people, so I can't guarantee whether it will work. I agreed reluctantly. "Honey, you're so nice." Tang Wan kissed me on the cheek excitedly. I looked at her back, a sneer appearing on the corner of my mouth. Tang Wan, do you think you won? Don't you think about what your husband does? If you want to play tricks on me, you are still a little naive. The next day, I deliberately got up very late. After Tang Wan went out for work, I got up slowly. The person I plan to introduce to you is a Tai Chaebol, the current person in power, Chairman Zhu. This is a leading enterprise in every field. He is involved in finance, real estate, medicine, etc., and is a top-notch boss. I have to put on a complete show. This time, Tang Wan and you will definitely not expect that I have set a big trap for them. Because Chairman Zhu has a conservative mindset and hates people working in the internet industry. I learned this many years ago when I helped him with a lawsuit. I deliberately picked Tang Wan and Yu's most annoying lunchtime and sent them a WeChat message, 7 p.m., Zhu Group's rooftop restaurant, don't be late. Zhu Group? You're not talking about. On the other end of the phone, Tang Wan's voice began to tremble. That's right, it's the Tai Chaebol Zhu Group. I warned in a serious tone. Chapter 6. I used a lot of connections to get this connection, so you guys better not let me down. Honey, you're so awesome. I knew you were the best. Tang Wan's voice was so sickening that I almost vomited my overnight meal. At around 6 o'clock in the evening, Tang Wan and you couldn't wait to come back home to pick me up to go to Zhu Group. In the most expensive restaurant in the area, two people sat upright at the dining table, like two fat sheep waiting to be slaughtered. Du was a disappointing guy. At 7 o'clock his stomach started to growl and he couldn't help it and wanted to go to the toilet. I don't know what he said to Tang Wan. After a while, Tang Wan also left on the pretext of going to the bathroom. I sat there calmly, and just then, the door opened. The ones who came were not Tang Wan and Du, nor Chairman Zhu. But a familiar face. That was the woman who thought I was trying to scam her that day when I was about to go to the police station to report the case. Wang Ruohan. Why are you here? We both said in unison. I guessed in my heart that most big guys would keep some young and beautiful girls outside and bring them to the dinner table. I guess this is the one. Facing Wang Ruohan, the girl who mistakenly thought I was committing a scam but kindly reminded me, I couldn't help but feel some sympathy for her. After all, according to rumors, Chairman Zhu is a very dangerous figure. Moreover, age also. I said, if you encounter any difficulties, you can contact me. I will try my best to help you. At your age, you should still be in college, right? Wang Ruohan was stunned for a moment, and then she realized what I was saying and scolded me angrily. Don't talk nonsense. You men have disgusting thoughts in your heads. I was speechless. I helped her out of kindness, but she scolded me. But I can understand that. Who doesn't he have some self-respect? But I am not a saint after all. Now that she said so, it is difficult to persuade a suicidal person with kind words. After a while, Tang Wan and Du Yu both came back. When they saw Wang Ruohan, they asked politely, "Miss, who are you?" Du Yu took the initiative to hand over his business card. After all, anyone who could be with Chairman Zhu should not be neglected. Wang Ruohan glared at me fiercely and said, "I am the daughter of Chairman Zhu you are looking for." It turns out that she is Chairman Zhu's daughter. I was so embarrassed that I wanted to find a hole to hide in. I actually misunderstood her as a mistress. As soon as Wang Ruohan's identity was revealed, Tang Wan and Du Yu clung to Wang Ruohan like lackeys, asking about her well-being. Du Yu was like a peacock spreading its feathers, talking about this and that. Wang Ruohan didn't have a good face towards him. I couldn't reveal that I had regained my sight, so I could only remain silent and pretend nothing had happened. Wang Ruohan, however, seeing the strange atmosphere between Du Yu, me, and Tang Wan, couldn't help but ask, "What is your relationship?" This time, Du Yu answered quickly and explained the relationship between him, Tang Wan and me, as if everything was innocent between the two of us. After all, it is impossible for Wang Ruohan, a rich girl, not to have some dreams. Tang Wan obviously also noticed Du Yu's little thoughts. A hint of unhappiness flashed in her eyes, but she didn't say anything in the end. Du Yu had always wanted to chat with Wang Ruohan. This time, Wang Ruohan took the initiative to ask a question, so he drew inferences from her experience and chatted with her. "My good brother is blind, and my sister-in-law is taking care of him. It's really not easy, so I hope Miss Wang can say a few good words for me." "Oh." Wang Ruohan looked at me with interest, as if she had heard a joke. "Are you blind?" I broke out in a cold sweat. I can only pray in my heart that Wang Ruohan doesn't say anything more. Otherwise, I will have to fall out with Du Yu and Tang Wan, and all my efforts will be wasted. My daughter has not been found yet. I could only desperately plead with Wang Ruohan with my eyes. And no one knew what Wang Ruohan was thinking. She didn't even reveal the fact that I had recovered my sight. She just chatted with Du Yu in a casual manner. A moment later, Chairman Zhu arrived. As soon as Chairman Zhu entered the room, Tang Wan and Du Yu immediately came to greet him, nodding and bowing, like two pugs wagging their tails to beg for mercy. I sneered in my heart. These two usually pretended to be decent in front of me, but when they saw the real big shot, they immediately showed their true colors. Chairman Zhu didn't pay much attention to them and just nodded casually. "Chairman Zhu, I have heard of your name for a long time. I never thought I would be able to have dinner with you today. It is such a great honor." Chairman Zhu said, walked to the sofa and sat down, and Du Yu immediately came to serve tea and water. His attentiveness made me want to vomit. Chairman Zhu glanced at him with a hint of contempt, but he didn't say anything. Probably for my sake, he asked casually, "What industry are you working in now?" When Du Yu heard this, he immediately became energetic, straightened his back, and began to brag. "I am mainly engaged in internet e-commerce now. As you know, this is the internet age. E-commerce is the trend of the future and the prospects are bright." I sneered in my heart. With his little ability, he wanted to start an internet e-commerce business. He opened an online store and sold some 3No products. Did he really think he was Jack Ma? Sure enough, after hearing his words, Chairman Zhu's face suddenly darkened and he said coldly, "Young man, don't be too impetuous. Being down to earth is the most important thing." After hearing what Chairman Zhu said, Du Yu immediately wilted, like an eggplant hit by frost, and was unable to utter a word. I was secretly happy inside, thinking, I've hit a wall, right? You should learn from your elder brother Xiaolin. He used to be a very famous lawyer in the industry. With him as your role model, why are you still learning something like e-commerce? Chairman Zhu's words made Du Yu blush, and he was so embarrassed that he wanted to find a hole to crawl into. He probably never dreamed that Chairman Zhu would say such words in front of me. Tang Wan on the side was a little unhappy. After all, no matter how awesome I was in the past, I'm just a blind man now. How could he possibly be better than do you? Chairman Ju really doesn't he know Taishan? She said sarcastically. Chairman Ju, what you said is serious. My old Lin, isn't this just bad luck? He ended up disabled. So, we can only rely on Do You. Chapter 7. Unexpectedly, Chairman Ju just glanced at her calmly and resolved Tang Wan's sarcasm with a calm tone. Although Xiaolin is disabled, he is much smarter than your friend. Tang Wan's face turned pale and blue, but it was difficult to refute this statement, otherwise it would be obvious that Chairman Ju did not know how to judge people. On the contrary, Du Yu couldn't hold back his face anymore and quickly changed the subject. Chairman Ju is right. I will definitely learn from Brother Lin. Let's eat first. However, I had no intention of letting him go. I acted like a person with experience and advised Du Yu. You can take your time eating, but you must take Chairman Ju's words to heart. The internet is not such a good place to make a living. If you have the time, you might as well learn something else. You know, I saw everything Du Yu did clearly. He relied on my previous fame, cheered me on, and even used it to get to know people in the internet circle. But he is timid and cowardly by nature. After hearing the words of the big shot Chairman Ju, he will most likely give up on the internet. But in fact, I know it very well. The internet is now an indispensable part of people's lives. If Du Yu really wants to continue doing e-commerce, I'm afraid this kid will really be in the spotlight. I just want to take this opportunity to make him lose his chance to take off. When Du Yu heard what I said, his teeth were broken. In his heart, I am just a blind man. What qualifications do I have to persuade him? He's acting like an old veteran. How unlucky. But he couldn't refute in front of Chairman Ju. This feeling like something stuck in his throat made him so frustrated that his face turned red. Chairman Ju is already old, how could he not see the undercurrents between us? He looked angry and said unhappily. I have a meeting this afternoon, Xiaolin, I'll be leaving first. After saying that, he stood up without even glancing at Tang Wan and DU's faces, which were as dark as ink. After Chairman Ju and Wang Ruohan left, the smiles on Du Yu and Tang Wan's faces immediately disappeared. I was shocked by how quickly they changed their attitude. Tang Wan didn't even bother to pretend to be polite as usual and slapped me on the arm. You are so useless. You can't even introduce someone well. The person just left without even eating. Isn't this a waste of my money and time? I sneered in my heart. If it wasn't because I was looking for my daughter, I would have thrown a huge smack in this shameless woman's face long ago. Where does your money come from? Don't you have any idea? You squander my money and put the blame on me. When I think of how I used to love Tang Wan so much, I feel sick. I was so blind and deceived before that I actually thought she was the best woman in the world. Du Yu also had a face full of complaints, and the look he gave me seemed to be filled with poison. I guess it's because I just lost face in front of Chairman Ju, and he hates me to the core. Mr. Lin, did you say something bad about me in front of Chairman Ju? Otherwise, given my abilities, how could Chairman Ju say that? Your ability? Don't you have any idea of your own abilities? I complained in my heart, but my face looked distressed. Okay, Du Yu, so this is how you see me. Don't forget, if I hadn't taken you in and lent you money to help you turn your life around, you would be nothing. I've helped you so much, and now you're saying this to me, you're simply. I covered my chest, looking like I was going to faint from anger. That's the tycoon Jay Cho. How much effort did it take for me to invite him? Think about it, what qualifications do I have to say anything in front of Jay Cho? Hearing what I said, Du Yu's eyes turned red. The thing he hates most is that I once took him in and was his benefactor. A little bit of kindness will bring about a grudge. I'm just a blind man, why should I be his benefactor? But at the same time, Du Yu also calmed down. Because in his opinion, I was right. If I didn't sincerely want to help him, there would be no need to invite a big shot like Chairman Ju. It would have been better if I didn't sell him, and I wasted a favor. Although he no longer doubted this issue, he was still angry. Tang Wan on the side snorted. I see, you just don't take things seriously. You can't even handle such a small matter. It seems I can't count on you. Hearing what she said, I just sneered in my heart. Now you don't even want to pretend to avoid suspicion? You really think I'm a complete fool? I had no choice but to pretend to be aggrieved and lower my head to maintain my image as a loving wife. It's my fault. Alas. It seems that Xiaodu can only find another way. HMPH. Forget it, I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. You can ask the waiter to take you home in a taxi. Seeing how cowardly I was, Tang Wan became furious and turned around and left with Du Yu. I was the only one left in the box in an instant. I looked at the empty door, feeling indescribable anger in my heart. Although I have regained my sight now, I am still a blind person in their eyes. I was so nice to them, yet they actually left a blind man in a restaurant and went home hand in hand. What a cruel person. I took a deep breath and swore in my heart. I will make both of them perish from all hope. Let me and my daughter suffer all the pain they have endured. I calmed down a little and prepared to leave the restaurant. However, at this moment, the door was opened. Someone I didn't expect to see come back. Chapter 8. Wang Ruohan. Seeing my surprised look, Wang Ruohan sneered, then stepped forward and took the bag that she accidentally dropped on the seat. Hey, aren't you blind? Why are you looking at me in such surprise? I was stunned for a moment, then I reacted, quickly stood up and said to her. I'm sorry, I misunderstood just now. Oh, I don't need your apology. You have that in your mind, so you must be that kind of person. Wang Ruohan didn't look at me kindly at all. I clenched my fists and said. What I hate most in my life is people who cheat in their marriage. Hearing what I said, Wang Ruohan suddenly thought of something and smiled. After all, anyone with a discerning eye could see what was going on between Tang Wan and Du Yu just now. Hey, why didn't you tell your wife that you regained your sight? Maybe your wife fell in love with someone else because you are blind. I didn't intend to tell these secret things to this girl whom I had only met a few times, so I stood up, shook my head, said nothing, and prepared to leave. However, Wang Ruohan showed great interest in this matter, especially when she recalled the day when I was looking for my daughter on the street. She stood behind me and called me. If you tell me, I can keep your secret. Otherwise, your secret may be exposed. Obviously, Wang Ruohan was still resentful of the fact that I treated him as my mistress just now. I felt a little angry, but after all, I was the one who misunderstood others first. Taking a deep breath, I turned around and looked at Wang Ruohan with a deep gaze. I apologize for what happened just now. I didn't mean to do that, and I really wanted to help you at that time. Wang Ruohan chuckled after listening to my explanation. It seems like it's very difficult for you to deal with the two of them now. If you tell me about this, maybe I'll be willing to help you. Wang Ruohan is worthy of being Chairman Zhu's daughter. She has a strong ability of observation. One glance tells me that I am treading on thin ice. But I have to say, I was somewhat tempted. I have no power now, so it is easy for me to find evidence of Du Yu and Tang Wan's collusion, but it is a bit difficult to find my daughter. So for the sake of my daughter, I am willing to tear off my fig leaf and expose myself in front of Wang Ruohan. After hesitating for a moment, I sighed. I told Wang Ruohan everything I knew after I regained my sight. So, the most important thing now is that I know where my daughter is. My eyes were red as I repeated this sentence. Wang Ruohan was stunned after hearing this. Even though she was the daughter of a chaebol, she never imagined that there would be such shameless and dirty things in the world. Since I promised to help you, I will definitely help you. She looked at me with sympathy. Tell me, what do you want me to do for you most now? Don't worry about the rest. Can you help me find my daughter? I stared at Wang Ruohan with hope. I knew that Chairman Zhu had tremendous power, and Wang Ruohan would definitely have a way to find my daughter. It seems that God still favors me, and I can get help from Wang Ruohan. Wang Ruohan nodded. Then we exchanged contact information. Wang Ruohan said that once she got my daughter's phone number, she would immediately send me a message. I thanked her profusely. Wang Ruohan blushed and said softly, "These are all small matters. Just think of it as a sudden act of kindness on my part." I looked at her red ears and couldn't help but smile. She is still a little girl and will blush when others praise her. This is the best news I have received in recent days. After Wang Ruohan and I said goodbye, we left the hotel one after another. If you want to act, you have to do it completely. I even asked a waiter to call a taxi for me to go home. Before I even reached the door, I could hear Tang Wan and Du Yu's laughter coming from inside. These two people are so disgusting. They were flirting in broad daylight in my house. Because I was blind before, my house has a combination lock. I put my hand on it and pushed the door lightly, and it opened. As expected, Tang Wan's deliberately suppressed laughter and Du Yu's disgusting flattery were heard in the room. But they were in the second bedroom and didn't he seem to hear me come back. So I can hear everything they are discussing now. We must teach that guy a lesson today. Du Yu said viciously. I've been embarrassed like this. If I don't teach him a lesson, I won't be able to calm down. Okay, all up to you. All up to you. Tang Wan's voice was full of disdain. Du Yu rolled his eyes and said. We'll put some pebbles in the bathroom later. You take him to take a bath and make her miss a step and fall hard. It would be best if she died. I sneered. These two idiots, do they really think I know nothing? I slowed down my pace and deliberately made some noise. Who? Tang Wan's voice suddenly became sharp. I pretended to have just walked in and said in a surprised tone, It's me, what are you talking about? Nothing. Tang Wan's voice was a little flustered, and then she pretended to be calm and said, We are discussing what to eat tonight. Are you hungry? Yes, brother-in-law, you must be hungry. I'll cook for you. Du Yu's voice sounded a little weak. I pretended not to notice their strangeness, walked straight to the living room, sat down on the sofa, and said nonchalantly, Don't bother, I'll just eat something. By the way, the bathroom seems a little dirty, I'll go take a shower. I stood up and walked towards the bathroom, deliberately making my footsteps heavier. I was also paying attention to their expressions, and when I saw that I was exactly what they wanted, they showed joy on their faces. What an idiot. If there's a pit, just jump in by yourself, saving us a lot of effort, har har. I curled my lips. These two idiots really can't keep their cool. I pretended not to hear, opened the bathroom door, turned on the shower, and let the water wash over my body. I closed my eyes and listened carefully to the noise outside the bathroom. Chapter 9. Soon, I heard light footsteps approaching the bathroom, followed by Du Yu's deliberately low voice, Wan, do you think he will fall for it? Don't worry. He's a blind man, how could he possibly dodge? Besides, even if he's lucky enough not to fall, we can say that he wasn't paying attention and it has nothing to do with us. Tang Wan's voice was full of pride. I took a deep breath, opened my eyes suddenly, and a cold light flashed in my eyes. What a great Tang Wan, what a great Du Yu. Do you really think I'm easy to bully? It's time to teach you a lesson. I deliberately groaned in pain and fell heavily to the ground. With a loud bang, the outside of the bathroom suddenly became quiet. What's wrong? What's wrong? Tang Wan's voice was a little flustered. I tried to suppress my laughter. Ouch, my head seems to have hit something. Hurry, go and take a look. Tang Wan's voice sounded hurriedly. I heard a flurry of footsteps, followed by Du Yu's voice, brother-in-law, how are you? Say something. I suddenly opened my eyes, grabbed Du Yu's wrist, pulled it hard, and at the same time raised my leg and swept it backwards. Arr! With a scream, Du Yu lost his balance and flew into the bathroom like a rag doll. I had rehearsed it in my mind countless times. Between pulling and pushing, I could even feel the look of fear on Du Yu's face. Bang! Du Yu's body hit the edge of the bathtub heavily, and then slid weakly to the ground. I said, ouch, and pretended to be confused. What's going on? What's wrong? What's wrong? Tang Wan's voice sounded outside the door, with panic and a hint of barely perceptible excitement. I hit my head. It's all my fault that I'm blind. Where's Du Yu? Du Yu, are you okay? After a burst of hurried footsteps, Tang Wan's voice rang out with tears in her eyes. Ayu, what's wrong with you? Don't scare me. I sneered in my heart and continued to pretend to shout. Wan, is Du Yu okay? Ayu, wake up. Tang Wan's voice became more and more panicked, even with a hint of despair. I struggled to stand up, but deliberately kicked over the bucket next to me, and with a splash, water flowed all over the floor. Don't move. Tang Wan's voice suddenly became sharp. Don't move. Wait, I'll call an ambulance. I shouted in panic, don't go. Don't leave me alone. I'm scared. Don't be afraid, I'll be back soon. Tang Wan's voice became farther and farther away, and finally disappeared in the panic. I listened to Tang Wan's receding footsteps, and a cold arc appeared on the corner of my mouth. Do you, this is what happens when you betray me. The bathroom became quiet, with only the sound of water dripping on the floor, ticking, ticking, as if mocking Do you and Tang Wan's stupidity. I stood up slowly, groped my way to the bathroom door, and opened it gently. Wan. I called out a few times tentatively, but got no response. Good, very good, it seems Tang Wan and Do you have already gone to the hospital. The living room was quiet, with only the occasional sound of car horns coming from outside the window. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself down. Tang Wan and Do you, this couple, will definitely leave some clues at home. Sofa, coffee table, TV cabinet. I searched the entire living room but found nothing. I walked step by step to the door of Tang Wan's study and gently pushed it open. The study was dark, the curtains were drawn tightly, and only a desk lamp emitted a dim light. I groped my way to the desk and turned on the desk lamp. There was a photo on the desk, and the people in the photo were Tang Wan and Do you. I picked up the photo with trembling hands. In the photo, Tang Wan and Do you were in an intimate posture, with happy smiles on their faces. The date sign in the corner of the photo made me realize that this photo was taken 5 years ago. In other words, Tang Wan and Do you had been hooking up together 5 years ago. They have been deceiving me for the past 5 years. I was like a fool, played in their hands. I was so angry that I was shaking all over and wanted to tear the photo into pieces. I took a deep breath and forced myself to calm down. I must find more evidence to bring disgrace upon Tang Wan and Do you. I began to search everywhere, drawers, bookshelves, safes. I turned the entire study upside down. Hard work pays off, and I finally found a diary in an inconspicuous drawer. I couldn't wait to open the diary and read it page by page. On the first page of the diary, there was a sentence like this: Dear you, today is the first day we met, I am very happy. My heart sank suddenly, and I continued to turn the pages. Every page of the diary recorded every detail between Tang Wan and Do you, from meeting to falling in love, from passionate love to living together. This diary is the ironclad evidence that Tang Wan and Do you betrayed me. I held the diary tightly, and a fierce light flashed in my eyes. I stuffed the journal into my pocket and started cleaning up the scene. I wiped down everything I might have touched, making sure there weren't any fingerprints of mine left behind. Back in the living room, I sat on the sofa and thought carefully about my next plan. I have the evidence of Tang Wan and Do you's crimes in my hand. Next, I have to think carefully about how to use this evidence to make them pay a heavy price. Municipal hospital. Did that Lin bastard do that on purpose? In the ward, Do you was lying on the bed with gauze wrapped around his forehead, speaking viciously. He suffered a mild concussion from the fall and the doctor asked him to stay in the hospital for 7 days for observation. It was obvious that he wanted me to fall to the ground and be without knowing whether I was dead or alive, but I didn't expect that he would be the one to suffer the consequences. Do you could not accept such a result. And I'm just a blind man, how could such a coincidence happen? Tang Wan also remained silent. Of course she understood what Do you meant. They suspected I did it on purpose. Do you think he has regained his sight? Do you said suspiciously. Chapter 10. Tang Wan also guessed it, and obviously she also felt that this was very possible. Damn it. Why at this moment? We have to think of a way to test him quickly. 7 days later, Do you was discharged from the hospital. Brother Lin, can you stay home alone these few days? Wan is worried about you. If I didn't have to lie down in this shabby hospital, I would have come back earlier to accompany you. As soon as Do you came in, he started shouting loudly, as if he was afraid that I couldn't see him. He put one hand on my shoulder and skillfully put the other hand around Tang Wan's waist and gave her a kiss on the face. I pretended not to see it and just smiled faintly. It's okay, I can take care of myself, you just need to take good care of your injuries. Hey, Brother Lin, you don't know, I've been so depressed these past few days in the hospital. Do you said this, deliberately hugging Tang Wan tighter. I sneered in my heart, but remained calm on the surface. Wan has worked so hard. She has to take care of a blind man like me and run to the hospital. Hey, husband, what are you talking about? Tang Wan patted me coquettishly. You are my husband, who should I take care of if I don't take care of you? That's right, Wan is sincere to you. Do you chimed in, and even nudged Tang Wan with his elbow. Is that right, Wan? Tang Wan dodged with a sweet giggle. but her eyes secretly glanced at me, as if observing my reaction. You two have such a good relationship. If someone didn't know you, they would think you were a couple. I joked deliberately, but there was a barely perceptible chill in my tone. Tang Wan and Duyu's expressions changed slightly, but soon returned to normal. Brother Lin, you are joking. I treat you as my own brother. Duyu laughed, but his eyes flickered. Yes, husband, please don't say that. It would be bad if others heard it. Tang Wan also agreed, but her tone sounded a little guilty. I know they are afraid, they are worried that I have already known the truth. And I want to make them live in this fear and make them pay the price for what they have done. Okay, stop standing and sit down. I want to see how long you can keep on playing this drama. Tang Wan cooked dinner, which was delicious and just like any other meal. Brother Lin, come, try this. This is the braised pork I made especially for you. Tang Wan picked up a piece of braised pork and put it in my bowl with a gentle smile on her face. I looked at the braised pork in the bowl and suddenly remembered that when Tang Wan cooked for me in the past, she would always give me the best piece of meat and gently say to me, "Hubby, eat more." My heart was in turmoil. I suppressed my inner nausea, picked up the piece of braised pork and put it into my mouth. How is it? Is it delicious? Tang Wan looked at me expectantly. I chewed the braised pork in my mouth, but it tasted like wax. It's delicious. It's delicious. I said against my will. If it tastes good, eat more. Tang Wan said, and picked up another piece of braised pork for me. And I clearly saw a green caterpillar on the piece of braised pork. It seems that the two of them want to use this caterpillar to test whether I have regained my sight. What a pair of dogs, so despicable and dirty. I took a deep breath, knowing that if I didn't eat the braised pork in front of them, they would definitely become more suspicious of me. Feeling their two fierce eyes, my brain was spinning rapidly. I can't really eat this caterpillar. Chapter 11. So I pretended to be concerned and gave the braised pork in the bowl to Duyu. Last time you were hospitalized because of me, I, as your brother, felt really bad. Come on, try your sister-in-law's cooking, eat more meat, and replenish your body. Duyu narrowed his eyes. He stared at me intently, as if he wanted to burn a hole in my face. How could it be such a coincidence? I just gave him the piece of braised pork with green worms in it. Duyu calmly put the braised pork back into my bowl and said with a half-smile. Brother Lin, you don't have to help me pick up the food. I can do it myself. This piece of meat is picked up by your sister-in-law for you. It represents my love for you. You should eat it quickly. Tang Wan also stared at me. I coughed twice at this time and reached out to take the water cup placed on my right. Then I accidentally knocked the cup to the ground. All I heard was a bang. The water glass broke into several pieces. Tang Wan and Duyu both looked down subconsciously. I took this opportunity to pick up the green worm on the braised pork in the bowl with my left hand. When they raised their heads again, they saw me putting the braised pork into my mouth. Tang Wan and Duyu looked at each other. At the same time, he was watching my reaction out of the corner of his eye. I pretended to enjoy the food and raised my chopsticks. Very nice. Then I coughed violently a few times. Wanwan, what's wrong with this braised pork? Why does it feel so disgusting? I held my stomach, looking very uncomfortable. Then he vomited several times on the ground, as if he wanted to spit out bile. But Tang Wan and Duyu were still a little surprised and doubtful. After all, they didn't see me eat the insect with their own eyes. I kept holding onto the table with one hand and vomiting madly with one hand. Then he crushed the small caterpillar that he had been holding in his hand and threw it to the ground when the two of them were not paying attention. Seeing that I was coughing badly, Tang Wan pretended to be kind and patted me on the back. Then she saw the little caterpillar that had already exploded on the ground. King Tang gave Duyu a look. Signaled Duyu to look at the ground. The two of them breathed a sigh of relief at the same time, temporarily dispelling their doubts. After all, if I were no longer blind, I would definitely not eat such a disgusting thing. Tang Wan immediately pretended to say, Honey, what's wrong with you? There's nothing wrong with this braised pork. I ate so much just now and it was fine. It must be because you've been taking too many medicines recently and you're feeling a little nauseous. I looked at her hypocritical face and sneered, but I still pretended to be weak and gentle. My health is really poor. I am sorry to cause you trouble, wife. I'll go in and take a rest later. Tang Wan nodded and helped me back to the bedroom. When I lay down in the bedroom and Tang Wan left, I turned on the surveillance camera installed on my mobile phone. Sure enough, the two of them started talking in the living room about whether I had regained my sight. Chapter 12. The caterpillar must have been eaten by him. It seems that he still doesn't know about the two of us. Tang Wan looked at Du and touched his head with heartache. It was just an accident that day, but he caused you to fall and get a concussion. I will never let him go. Du nodded. Since he is still blind, why don't we just kill a blind man? Isn't that simple? Okay, let's not talk about this unlucky thing anymore, let's. I watched everything in the surveillance camera with a sneer. These were really two beasts in heat. After so many days, I have already clearly thought out my revenge plan. I want to see how long this pair of dogs can continue to run around under my nose. I want to bring disgrace upon that bitch Tang Wan, and let that bastard Du also have a taste of what it feels like to be toyed with by others. I picked up my phone and opened an encrypted folder, which contained an intimate video of Tang Wan and Du. I recorded these secretly by taking advantage of the fact that I can't see. I sneered and uploaded the video directly to several small websites with good traffic. I also edited an eye-catching title, The Secrets That Wealthy Ladies and Fitness Coaches Have to Tell. After doing all this, I stretched myself lazily, feeling happy. Next, just wait and see the show. 2 days later. Tang Wan soon realized something was wrong because some people had been looking at her strangely recently. She found one of her colleagues and asked what was going on. After Tang Wan's repeated questioning, the colleague told Tang Wan hesitantly that he had seen Tang Wan's short video on the website. Tang Wan was completely dumbfounded. When she clicked on the URL and saw the video, her brain suddenly stopped thinking. Because that was indeed the intimate video between her and Du. In order to win my favor, Tang Wan had introduced me to all her relatives and friends. So, now Du had sex with her, and everyone saw it. How can she survive? Tang Wan noticed her colleague's strange and suspicious look and hurriedly explained. Oh my god, who photoshopped this picture? This is too much. I must call the police and arrest these people who photoshopped these pictures. After saying this, Tang Wan fled and returned home. Tang Wan's face turned pale and she rushed into the bedroom. I was lying on the bed, and on my phone I could hear Tang Wan's suppressed hysterical roar, "Do you? Are you fucking sick? Why are you taking those photos?" I sneered in my heart. The show has finally begun. What? Chapter 13. Du was taking a nap at the moment, and was completely stunned by Tang Wan's noise. You, take a good look. Tang Wan's face turned red, not sure if she was angry or embarrassed. She clicked on the URL and threw the picture on it in Du's face. Du was also a little angry at first. But when he saw the phone screen, he froze in place. Du looked flustered and at a loss. He stammered as he explained. One, listen to my explanation. Those videos were not posted by me. I don't know what happened. You're talking nonsense. Tang Wan's voice was so sharp that it seemed to pierce my eardrums. There are only 2 of us in the video. If it wasn't you who sent it, then who did? Did I send it myself? I closed my eyes, and Tang Wan's face, distorted with anger, appeared in my mind, and waves of pleasure surged in my heart. I have a password on my phone and it's always locked. Someone must have stolen my phone. Du was still struggling. He didn't realize that I was taking the photo secretly, and he was also confused. After all, I have done it with Tang Wan too many times and have filmed many videos. Enough. Tang Wan suddenly yelled. I sneered. Who told you to love taking short videos? I slowly got up, walked to the living room, turned on the TV, and pretended I knew nothing. Tang Wan's roar in the bedroom was like a sharp knife, stabbing my heart again and again. It felt good, so fucking good. This woman used to boss me around, but now she finally feels what it feels like to be played around by someone, right? I deliberately cleared my throat, and Tang Wan and Du's voices stopped abruptly. Honey, what's wrong with you? Did I disturb you? Tang Wan walked towards me, twisting her waist, with a guilty smile on her face, completely different from her usual arrogant look. I sneered and said nothing, but picked up the remote control and turned up the TV volume. Seeing this, Tang Wan became even more flustered. She clung to me like a frightened kitten, her voice so delicate that water could drip out of it. "Hubby, don't be angry. I just had a few arguments with you. He's an unreliable person and made me angry." I glanced at her and said in a cold tone, "Oh? Really? I thought you two were very affectionate and inseparable." Tang Wan's face changed, and she quickly explained. "Hubby, how can you say that? He and I are just ordinary friends. You are the only one in my heart." I sneered and said nothing. I just picked up the water cup on the coffee table and took a sip. "Husband, what do you want me to do before you believe me?" Seeing that I was unmoved, Tang Wan was so anxious that she was about to cry. I put down the cup, looked directly at her, and said word by word, "I want you to tell me in person that you love me and only me in this life." Tang Wan was stunned for a moment, then a blush appeared on her face. She bit her lip, hesitated for a moment, and finally raised her head, looked into my eyes, and whispered, "I love you, and I will only love you in this life." I sneered in my heart. This woman is really flexible and can say anything. "Speak louder, I can't hear you." I deliberately raised my voice. "I love you. I will only love you in this life." Tang Wan took a deep breath and said loudly. I nodded with satisfaction, then I hugged her in my arms and whispered in her ear, "That's good, honey. Don't worry, as long as you are obedient, I promise to let you live a happy life." Chapter 14. My hands wandered restlessly over Tang Wan's body. Tang Wan's body stiffened for a moment, but soon relaxed. She leaned obediently in my arms and said in a charming voice, "Hubby, whatever you say is what I will listen to you." A sneer appeared on the corner of my mouth. You, who was hiding in the bedroom, heard the conversation between Tang Wan and me clearly, and he clenched his fists tightly. On the surface, I pretended to be fascinated by Tang Wan and whispered in her ear, "That's good, honey. I'm not feeling well. I'll trouble you to take care of me tonight." Tang Wan nodded shyly. With that look and that tone, if someone didn't know us, they would really think we were a loving couple. I sneered in my heart, the best is yet to come. I deliberately tormented Tang Wan for most of the night, asking her to massage my back and pour me water, and I didn't let her go until I was satisfied. Looking at her exhausted appearance, I felt secretly happy. I pretended to be asleep and breathed evenly. "Honey, are you asleep?" Tang Wan pushed me gently, her voice so sweet that it made me sick. Of course I ignored her and continued pretending to sleep. "Honey, are you really asleep?" Seeing that I ignored her, Tang Wan called me tentatively again. I sneered in my heart. This woman really can't keep her temper. I still didn't say anything, but just turned over and faced away from her. "HMPH, it's best if you fall asleep." Seeing that I still didn't react, Tang Wan finally gave up her disguise. She suddenly sat up from the bed, glared at me fiercely, and then got out of bed quietly. I opened my eyes slightly and watched her tiptoe out of the bedroom. Then I knocked on the door of the second bedroom and said in a low voice, Are you asleep?" "No, come in." You's voice came from the room. I heard the door open, and then Tang Wan's voice, "Keep your voice down, don't wake him up." "What are you afraid of? He's sleeping like a dead pig, how could he hear anything?" You said disdainfully. "What exactly do you want to do?" Tang Wan's voice was filled with a hint of impatience. "What do I want to do? I was going to ask you what you want to do. Why did you treat him like that tonight? Have you changed your mind and fallen in love with him?" You's voice suddenly rose an octave, filled with anger and jealousy. I heard Tang Wan's voice become flustered. "What are you talking about? How could I fall in love with him? Just what?" You roared. "It's just that he has good skills. You are starting to enjoy it, right?" "I didn't." Don't talk nonsense." There was a hint of tears in Tang Wan's voice. "I have never had any relationship with him." I heard Tang Wan's voice become more flustered. She seemed to want to explain something, but was interrupted by You. "Stop talking. I don't want to listen. Go away, I don't want to see you again." You's voice was cold and ruthless. I heard hurried footsteps and then the sound of a door slamming. I suddenly opened my eyes, sat up from the bed, walked to the door, gently opened it, and looked outside. Chapter 15. I saw Tang Wan standing in the corridor, her face pale and her body trembling slightly. She seemed to feel my gaze and suddenly raised her head and looked at me. When their eyes met, Tang Wan's eyes flashed with panic and fear. I pretended to be confused and asked, "Wife, why are you up? I seemed to hear your voice just now." Tang Wan took a deep breath, trying to calm down her anger and continue to please me. "Honey, I'm fine. I'm thirsty and want a glass of water." "Oh, well, come on, let's go in and get some more sleep, your body is so soft." I deliberately said the last sentence very loudly so that you inside could definitely hear it. As expected. For the next 2 days, the two kept arguing and disliked each other. This ending is exactly what I wanted. Just letting the two of them quarrel among themselves would be far from justifying my tolerance over the past few days. It was the first time I discovered that being blind also has its advantages. I pretended to be blind at home and always let Tang Wan and do you take care of me. "Wife, I'm thirsty. Please pour me a glass of water." I lay on the sofa and shouted at the top of my voice. Tang Wan just came out of the bedroom, her face looked uglier than if she had eaten a fly. She must have just had another argument with you. She rolled her eyes at me in annoyance and said, "You don't have hands, can't you fall down by yourself?" "Oh, honey, look at what you're saying. I can't see. What if I get burned? Just have pity on me and pour me a glass of water." I pretended to look pitiful. Tang Wan walked into the kitchen angrily and put the cup of water heavily on the table. "Drink it. Don't bother me after you finish." I slowly groped my way to the table and picked up the glass of water. Pretend to accidentally knock it over. The scalding hot water splashed all over you. "Ar!" You yelled from the room, "You're scalding me to death." I stood up in a panic, apologizing repeatedly, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean it." "You did this on purpose." You grabbed my collar, his eyes wide open with anger. I was so scared that I was shaking all over, and I said tremblingly, Do you calm down, I really didn't mean it." "Calm down? How can you ask me to calm down? I've been burned like this by you, and you still want me to calm down." You took a few breaths. Seeing this, Tang Wan rushed over to stop him. What are you doing? He is blind." "Blind man? I think he is smarter than anyone else." You pushed Tang Wan away and pointed at my nose and cursed. "Mr. Lin, do you want me to leave?" Chapter 16. Have you forgotten how good I am to you? I am blind and I accidentally spilled water, why are you so angry at me? How can you say that I deliberately wanted to drive you away? Is that who I am in your heart? I stepped back in panic, my body trembling slightly, as if I were really frightened. "Don't try that on me." You shook off Tang Wan's hand. "Do you think I'm stupid? You did it on purpose." I really didn't mean it." I lowered my head, looking aggrieved. "You didn't mean to. Then why are you shaking? Why are you feeling guilty?" You pressed on, pointing at my nose and cursing, "Don't think I don't know what you're up to. You just want to drive me away. I'm telling you, no way." I sneered in my heart. Okay, I know my husband didn't mean it." Tang Wan stood in front of me and persuaded you softly, "Lin Feng is blind, do you want him to be scalded by hot water?" You was speechless. He couldn't say that he hoped I would get burned, right? He wasn't completely confused and knew that he couldn't break up with me now. HMPH. You snorted coldly, glared at me fiercely, turned around and went back to the room. I pretended to be heartbroken, covered my face and sobbed softly. Seeing this, Tang Wan quickly came over to comfort me. "Lin Feng, don't bother with him. He just has a bad temper. Don't take it to heart. Wife, I know I am blind and I have burdened you, and it has made it difficult for you to face you." I choked and said, I will go back to my room now." "Hey, husband, don't go." Tang Wan wanted to hold me back, but I had already groped my way into the room and gently closed the door. I leaned against the door and listened to the noise outside. "Tang Wan, what do you mean? Are you just going to watch him bully me?" Yu's voice was filled with anger and dissatisfaction. "How could I? Am I not speaking for you? There was a hint of impatience in Tang Wan's voice. That's what you call speaking for me. Look at you, you defend him everywhere. Whose side are you on? Do you asked? I curled the corners of my mouth. It seems that the show is getting more and more exciting. Tang Wan was speechless and didn't know how to answer. Tang Wan, let me tell you, I have tolerated him for a long time. If not for. Duyu's voice stopped abruptly, probably because Tang Wan covered his mouth. I groped my way to the bed and lay down, but my mind was racing. In the next few days, I deliberately acted very intimate with Tang Wan in front of Duyu, and from time to time I would say some things that made people think about something else. For example, one time, I accidentally fell in the living room, and Tang Wan came to help me up. I deliberately buried my head in her chest and pretended to be in pain and said, "Wife, I think I twisted my waist, can you help me rub it?" I could clearly feel Duyu's breathing becoming rapid, but he said nothing. He just looked at me coldly and turned back to the room. I knew my plan was starting to work. The relationship between Duyu and Tang Wan became more and more subtle, and their intimate contact became less and less. I know that Duyu has begun to doubt Tang Wan. And what I have to do is to add fuel to the fire and make it burn more vigorously. Sure enough, as I expected, the next morning, Duyu kindly poured me a glass of water. "Lin Feng, drink some water. You worked hard last night," Duyu said with a smile. His eyes looked as if I were his brother. "Hard work? Why am I working so hard? Is it hard for you two to have an affair under my nose?" Chapter 17. No, I'm not thirsty. I refused coldly without even looking at him. "No, this is the honey water I made especially for you. It's good for your health," Duyu said, and was about to put the cup of water in my hand. I knew without even thinking that there must be something extraordinary in this honey water. It seems that what I have done in the past few days has completely angered Duyu. That's why he resorted to such a desperate measure and drugged me. Judging from his appearance, he must have drugged me without telling Tang Wan. After all, Tang Wan and Duyu had never been so anxious before. This is exactly what I want. No, I'm not thirsty. I need to sleep for a while. I yawned pretending to be tired, lay down on the bed, turned over, and faced my butt towards Duyu. "Hey, you, how can you not appreciate a good person's kindness?" Duyu's voice was obviously a little angry. "I got up early in the morning to make you some honey water, and you turned your face away. What you are making is poison, not honey water." I could only sigh and say, "I just took some medicine, so I can't drink the honey water now. Put the honey water here, and I'll drink it in a minute." Duyu looked at me suspiciously, but since he felt that my expression didn't seem fake, he had no choice but to leave. Before leaving, he gave many instructions. "Then you must remember to drink this cup of honey water." I responded with a smile, but my eyes were full of fierceness. "Honey, are you awake?" At this time, Tang Wan's voice came from the room. She was probably woken up by us. I was secretly delighted, thinking that God was helping me. I took the cup and pretended to take a sip, then walked to Tang Wan's bed and handed her the water. "Wan, drink it. This honey water is quite sweet." Tang Wan probably hadn't woken up yet. She took the cup of water in a daze and drank it down. Just at this moment, my cell phone suddenly rang, and the caller was Wang Ruohan. At this critical moment, Wang Ruohan called me, and she must have news about her daughter. I was very excited, but I quickly calmed down. "Tang Wan and Duyu are at home now, I can't let them find out." But as luck would have it, Tang Wan found out someone was calling me and she was very confused. After all, I have been blind for so many years and have no basic social interaction. How could someone call me? In her scrutinizing gaze, I pretended to be very calm and answered the phone. Wang Ruohan's urgent voice came from inside. "Lin Feng, I know the whereabouts of your daughter." At that moment, my heart skipped a beat. I tried hard to hide the trembling in my voice and started talking nonsense. Okay, stop selling." Chapter 18. I will not buy your financial products. Don't call me anymore. Got it. I thought a girl as smart as Wang Ruohan would definitely be able to understand the implicit meaning behind my words, so I hung up the phone directly. Tang Wan looked at me suspiciously. I forced an ugly smile and explained, this insurance salesman calls me every day. It's so annoying. Tang Wan rolled her eyes at me and said nothing more, just drinking her honey water by herself. The next step is to find a way to get out of this situation and then contact Wen Ruohan. Well, Wanwan, I'll be out for a while, I said casually. Where are you going? Your eyes are in such a state, it will be so inconvenient for you to go out. Tang Wan put down the water cup and asked with concern. It's okay. I made an appointment with my childhood friend to chat in the cafe and bask in the sun. He wants to invest recently, and I just happened to mention you to him. I made up a reason. Investment? What investment? Take me with you. You looked at me suspiciously. I pretended to disapprove, shook my head and said, forget it. I'll go and tell him in person this time. Besides, he's my childhood friend and we haven't seen each other for a long time. Didn't you mess it up last time I took you there? I naturally put all the blame on you. Yu's expression was a little ugly. But in the end, not much was said. As for Tang Wan, she really didn't think much about it and just reminded him a few words to be careful. I struck while the iron was hot, picked up my blind stick and walked out. Hey, wait for me. You actually wanted to follow? I cursed in my heart, this kid is really haunting me. Why are you following me? I stopped and asked unhappily. I'm just worried that it's unsafe for you to go out alone, so I'll accompany you. You said with a smile. No, I can do it myself. I flatly refused and walked out of the house without looking back. After I left, you returned to the living room and walked in front of Tang Wan. Do you think this guy has regained his sight? Yu's tone this time was very decisive. Don't you think he's different from before? Looking at Yu's serious expression, Tang Wan frowned, as if thinking about something. You're right. I always feel like Lin Feng is no longer under our control. Yu snorted coldly. We clearly wanted him to fall, but he gave me a concussion instead. How could such a coincidence happen to a blind man? And this time, he didn't even take you with him. This is different from his previous habits. Tang Wan's expression became more and more panicked, and she hurriedly touched Yu's hand. So what do you think we should do now? Tang Wan actually made a gesture of wiping her neck. We have done so many things. If we are found out, we will inevitably go to jail. No, I don't want to go to jail. Looking at Tang Wan, who was very excited, Yu quickly tried to calm her down. Chapter 19. Don't worry, this blind man must have gone out to look for help today. We still have time to destroy the evidence. As for killing people, that is indeed risky, and we are not ready to kill people in such a short time. Let's destroy the evidence first, then Lin Feng won't be able to sue us. Good. After going out, I immediately called Wen Ruohan. Hello, I'm Lin Feng, where is my daughter now? My voice trembled a little with excitement. Wen Ruohan was silent for a few seconds, and said in a heavy tone, Lin Feng, calm down first, Eluor is not in a good condition. Not very well. What do you mean not very well? Is she sick? Or injured? My heart sank and all kinds of terrible images emerged in my mind. Don't worry, Eluor. Hey, be prepared. I'll send you the address later. Come over. Wen Ruohan hesitated to speak, and finally sighed. Okay, just send me the address and I'll be there right away. I suppressed the uneasiness in my heart, and after hanging up the phone, I anxiously waited for news from Wen Ruohan. Every minute and every second seemed like torture. My mind kept replaying every moment I spent with my daughter. My heart felt like it was being tightly grasped by an invisible hand, and I could hardly breathe. Beep. My phone vibrated, and I quickly clicked on the message. I saw the address Wen Ruohan sent, and immediately stopped a taxi. After giving the address, I urged, driver, please drive faster. I'm in a hurry. Along the way, my heart was in my throat and my mind was constantly wondering about my daughter's condition. Is she skinny and as pitiful as a stray cat on the street? Is she skinny and pale due to long-term malnutrition? Thinking of this, my heart felt like it was cut by a knife, filled with guilt and self-blame. It's all my fault. If I hadn't been blinded by Tang Wan and Yu, my daughter wouldn't have suffered so much. The taxi stopped in front of a private hospital. After paying the fare, I rushed into the hospital and drove all the way according to the ward number 1 Ruahan gave me. Standing at the door of the ward, I took a deep breath, calmed my excitement, and then gently pushed the door open. "Eloor!" I shouted tremblingly, but the next second, my voice stopped abruptly. The scene that came into view made me freeze in place. The sunlight came in through the window, lighting up the entire room. A small figure was sitting on the hospital bed with his back to me, playing with building blocks. "Eloor!" I called out again tentatively, with a slight tremor in my voice. The little girl heard my voice and slowly turned her head. At that moment, my heart seemed to be plucked hard by an invisible hand. "Are you, Dad?" Although the little girl was thin, her eyes were very bright and she just looked at me like that. She asked tentatively, her voice thin and tinny. My nose felt sore and my throat seemed to be blocked by something. I couldn't speak for a long time and could only nod blankly. "Are you really my father? Don't you want me?" The little girl struggled to sit up, but seemed to have no strength. I rushed over and helped her lean against the pillow. My heart ached like a knife. "Silly child, how could Daddy not want you? Daddy just. What should I say? Say that I was deceived by that bitch Tang Wan? Say that I was kept in the dark and had no idea that she sent you to the orphanage? Dad, don't say anything. I know everything." The little girl stretched out her thin little hand and gently stroked my face. "Auntie Wang told me everything. She said you are a good person, but you were deceived by a bad woman and didn't come to see me." Chapter 20. I looked at her in surprise. How could this child be so sensible at just a few years old? At this moment, the door of the ward was suddenly pushed open, and my mother came in angrily, pointing at my nose and started to curse. "You bastard! I told you a long time ago that Tang Wan was not a good woman, but you refused to believe me. Now that she has sent the child to an orphanage, you are thinking of becoming a father." I lowered my head and let my mother scold me, feeling extremely guilty. "Mom, stop talking, it's all over," I whispered. "Let it go. How can this kind of thing go?" Mom stamped her feet in anger. "Look at how thin Eloor has become. How can you be so useless as a father? Grandma, don't blame Dad." Eloor pulled my mother's clothes and said in a low voice. My mother's eyes turned red as she saw Eloor's sensible appearance. "Eloor, it's Grandma's fault. Grandma, I know that Dad loves me the most. He used to tell me stories every night and hold me to sleep." Eloor's voice choked up as she spoke. My heart felt like it was being tugged at by something, and it hurt so much that I couldn't breathe. "Eloor, Daddy will never leave you again, Daddy swears." I held my daughter's hand tightly and said in a firm tone. "Really? Dad doesn't lie." Eloor raised her head, her big watery eyes full of anticipation. "Dad is not lying. Dad will take you home and our family will never be separated," I said, and hugged my daughter in my arms. I hugged Eloor's thin body tightly, feeling mixed emotions. I owe this child so much. Ahem. My mother cleared her throat and her tone softened a lot. "Okay, the child just came back, don't scare her." As she said that, she glared at me and said, "Why don't you put Eloor on the bed right away?" Only then did I react, and I quickly and carefully put Eloor on the bed and covered her with a quilt. "Eloor, are you hungry? What do you want to eat? Dad will buy it for you." I touched Eloor's head and asked softly. "Dad, I want to eat the braised fish you make. You used to make it for me often. It was so delicious." Eloor's eyes lit up and her tone was full of anticipation. "What? Have you forgotten what you did before?" My mother said sarcastically. "When that vixen Tang Wan showed up, you completely forgot about me and Eloor." "Mom, please stop talking." I was a little upset and turned to look at my mother. "Mom, I'm sorry, it was all my fault before, What do you mean by you? What's the point of saying sorry now?" My mother's eyes were red again. "Do you know how I have been through these years? The little money you send back every month is not even enough for food." As my mother was speaking, she suddenly choked up and tears fell like beads from a broken string. I looked at my mother's gray hair and wrinkled face, and my heart felt like it was being stabbed by needles. All these years, I have been obsessed with that bitch Tang Wan and have never cared about my mother. I am such a bastard. Mom, don't cry. It's all my fault. I will definitely make it up to you and Eluor in the future. I held my mother's hand and spoke in a firm tone. My mother was stunned for a moment, then waved her hand in front of my eyes. Xiaofeng, can you see? I grabbed my mother's hand and held it tightly. Mom, I can see. My mother burst into tears and cried like a child. I patted her back gently, feeling mixed emotions. Okay. My mother was choking with sobs and couldn't speak, she just nodded continuously. Chapter 21. At this time, Eluor poked her little head out from under the quilt and looked at me timidly. Dad, can you really see? I looked at my daughter's thin face, my heart ached, and I walked over to hug her. Daddy can see, Eluor, Daddy will never leave you again. Eluor's little hands tightly hugged my neck, and her little face rubbed against my shoulder. Dad, do you keep your word? Dad keeps his word. Dad swears. I said firmly. Dad, can you take me to the amusement park? I haven't been there for a long time. Eluor's voice was very low, with a hint of caution. Okay, Dad will take you to the amusement park tomorrow, okay. I kissed my daughter's forehead and said softly. Yeah. That's great. Dad is the best. Eluor clapped her hands happily. I smiled and said, Eluor, stay with Grandma for a while, and Dad will buy you something delicious, okay. Okay. Eluor nodded obediently. I walked out of the ward and took a long breath. I finally found my daughter. Looking at the busy streets, my mood gradually brightened. Tang Wan, just wait, Lin Feng, swear that I will never let you go in this life. I took out my cell phone and dialed a number. Have you submitted the evidence to the court? I will make them pay the price. Brother Lin, don't worry. I won't let this adulterous couple, who dared to do such a thing to you, let them go. After hanging up the phone, a hint of ruthlessness flashed in my eyes. I will make Tang Wan pay for everything she has done. Sir, please buy a bouquet of flowers and give it to your loved one. A little girl selling flowers came up to me and said sweetly. Looking at the innocent smile of the little girl, my heart softened. I squatted down and asked, Little girl, what's your name? My name is Xiaoyu. The little girl blinked her big eyes and looked at me curiously. Xiaoyu, why do you come out to sell flowers? I asked. My mother is sick, and I need to make money for her medical treatment. Xiaoyu's voice was a little low. My nose felt sore, and I took out a stack of money from my pocket and handed it to Xiaoyu. Take this money and go to your mother's doctor. If it's not enough, tell me again. Thank you, uncle. Xiaoyu took the money happily with a bright smile on her face. Uncle, this bouquet of flowers is for you. I wish you and the one you love happiness forever. Xiaoyu said, stuffing a bouquet of lilies into my hand. I looked at the lilies in my hand, feeling mixed emotions. On the other side, Duyu was not idle either. After I left their house, he became more and more panicked. No, Lin Feng can't leave our sight. Maybe he has already collected some evidence at home. Duyu looked at Tang Wan and narrowed his eyes. Call him now and ask him to come back. Chapter 22. Tang Wan nodded quickly and dialed my number. I looked at the two words, Tang Wan, on the phone screen, hesitated for a moment, then walked out of the ward and answered the call. Tang Wan's voice on the other end of the phone was sharp and thin, like nails scratching on a blackboard, and it made me feel irritated. Tang Wan's voice on the other end of the phone was so sweet, like honey, that it made me feel sick. Honey, where are you? Why don't you come back? I miss you. I sighed and said. My childhood friend kept pestering me to drink. Hey. I haven't socialized for a long time. What's the hurry? I'll be back later. Hubby, I'm worried about you too. Tang Wan's voice became aggrieved, and I got goosebumps when I heard it. There was silence on the other end of the phone for a few seconds, and then Duyu's gloomy voice came. Lin Feng, what do you mean? Wan is worried about you and called you. How can you be so rude? I sneered. Am I her husband or are you her husband? Is it your turn to stand up for her? Duyu was speechless for a moment. Tang Wan quickly snatched the phone and said something nice to me. Hubby, please come back soon. I have something to ask you when you come back. Listening to their two urgent voices, I realized that they might have suspected me. But it's too late to doubt me now. After finding my daughter, I had nothing to worry about, and all the evidence was already collected. So I don't need to pretend anymore and flatter them anymore. If you have anything to ask, just ask on the phone, or just wait for me to come back, I said in a calm tone. Listening to the other end of the phone, Tang Wan seemed to be preparing to say something. I pretended that the signal was bad and hung up the phone. After I hung up their phone, "Do you?" slapped the table angrily. I said that this Lin must have discovered it, otherwise why wouldn't he come back? He must have gone out to find help now. No, we can't just sit there and wait for death. Tang Wan, who was standing by, was sweating profusely and grabbed Du Yu's sleeve in panic. When did he regain his sight? Does he have any evidence about us? His former friends were all pretty powerful. What should we do this time? Du Yu narrowed his eyes and reached out to pat the back of Tang Wan's hand. Okay, don't worry, I'll find someone to find Lin Feng's location now. When the time comes, just snatch Lin Feng's phone and smash it. If Lin Feng had discovered it earlier, he wouldn't have torn his face off now. He doesn't have such strong willpower. So I guess he doesn't know much, at most he knows about the two of us. Let's catch him now, nothing will happen to him. Tang Wan's face turned pale. Now she had no choice but to listen to Du Yu. She nodded. Du Yu quickly dialed a number. Hello? It's me, Du Yu. Hurry up and find Lin Feng's location, then smash his phone. It would be best if you could bring him back home. Looking at the empty phone screen. I know Du Yu and Tang Wan won't give up so easily. They will definitely come to me now, or think of some other way. I looked at my mother and Eluor in the ward and decided to leave the hospital first to avoid affecting them. I put on a smiling face, walked into the ward, and touched the soft head. Luo, Dad has something else to do. I have to go out for a while. I'll come to see you in the evening, okay? Chapter 23. The little fellow nodded sensibly and called out crisply. Dad, I get it. I will be good. You must come back. I chuckled and nodded, the bitterness in my heart welling up again. My daughter is so sensible. She is still so well behaved even without my company. It's all Tang Wan's fault, that beast. Aside. My mother looked at me worriedly. Xiao Feng, are you going to look for Tang Wan? I just looked at my mother calmly, and gave her strength with my calm eyes. Mom, don't worry. I am a man of integrity. I will definitely settle this account. You don't have to worry. I have already prepared for this. My mother looked at me. She knew she couldn't stop me, so she could only nod slightly. Okay, you must be careful. After greeting my mother and daughter, I turned and looked at Wen Ruohan who was standing beside me. My expression was full of gratitude. I knew if it weren't for her, I may never find my daughter's whereabouts in this lifetime. Even if I do, I don't know where my daughter will be by then. Thank you. I bowed to Wen Ruohan. His expression was sincere and earnest. You have helped me so much. I will always remember your kindness. If you need me, just tell me and I will go through fire and water for you. Wen Ruohan smiled and accepted my gratitude calmly. It's okay. Seeing you like this makes me feel pretty good. Wen Ruohan smiled. I'm going to the lawyer's office. I said, can I treat you to a meal next time when I'm free? Wen Ruohan glanced at me and finally nodded. Let's go. I have a car to take you there. The two of us walked out of the hospital gate together, but suddenly a group of ferocious-looking people rushed out in front of us. I narrowed my eyes. These people appeared too suddenly. They have no good intentions. I subconsciously protected Wen Ruohan behind me and looked at this group of people vigilantly. After all, Wen Ruohan is innocent and is my benefactor. I don't want to involve her in the affairs between me, Du Yu, and Tang Wan. The people in front of him all looked ferocious and it was obvious that they were not good people. What are you doing? I shouted at the burly man who was leading the group. The sturdy man sneered, revealing his yellow teeth. You must be Lin Feng, right? Come with us if you know what's best for you, or you'll suffer. When I heard this, I immediately understood something. It seemed that Du Yu's grandson had sent someone to take revenge. Damn it, I haven't even gone to settle accounts with him yet, but he came to my door first. I suppressed my anger and said coldly, why should I go with you? Who do you think you are? Oh, you're pretty tough. The sturdy man rolled up his sleeves as he spoke, and it seemed that he was ready to take action. Don't waste time talking to him, just arrest him, Another guy who looked like a younger brother shouted impatiently. I thought to myself, this isn't good. It looks like I can't avoid being beaten today. Just as I was about to fight to the death, suddenly, a cry came from behind me. Stop it. You hooligans, how dare you commit murder in the street in broad daylight? Chapter 24. I looked back and saw when Ruahan snorted coldly. I am the eldest daughter of the Jew family. Who among you dares to make a move? Seeing her cute and bossy look, my originally heavy mood couldn't help but relax a little. It seems that when Ruahan often uses her family's name, and she says it very fluently. After all, the Jew family is well known throughout the country and has a lot of say. However, when Ruahan probably couldn't have imagined in her dreams. The rank of these gangsters is too low and they have never heard of the eldest daughter of the Jew family. Bar. You bitch, mind your own business. A boy with dyed yellow hair rushed towards when Ruahan. I was shocked. These scumbags even beat women. I quickly stood in front of Wen Ruahan and kicked the yellow-haired boy to the ground. Damn it, you're looking for death. Seeing this, the other thugs pounced on me like mad dogs. Although I was quite skilled in fighting, the other side outnumbered me and I soon fell into a disadvantage. Just when I was about to be unable to hold on, suddenly, a few big men in black rushed out from behind me and knocked these thugs to the ground in no time. Ouch! Ouch! Stop hitting me! Stop hitting me! I was wrong. This group of hooligans were lying on the ground wailing. I rubbed my arms that were hurt and finally I felt relieved. Mr. Lin, are you okay? A big man in black said to me respectfully. I shook my head to indicate that I was fine. It was then that I noticed these burly men in black. They were tall and strong with sharp eyes, and it was obvious that they were martial artists. Thank you for your help, I said gratefully. You're welcome. We are Miss Wang's bodyguards. It is our duty to protect Miss Wang's safety, one of the big men in black said. Only then did I realize that these big men in black were Wen Ruahan's bodyguards. I turned to look at Wen Ruahan, and she said unhappily. That's how you protected me. You came too late, didn't you? Did you know they were almost about to attack us? The big man in black immediately lowered his head and said respectfully. I'm sorry, miss. Are you okay? I asked with concern. I'm fine. When Ruahan shook her head, took a deep breath, and said, let us call the police first. We can't let these scumbags get away with it. I nodded to show my agreement. Soon, the police arrived at the scene and took the gangsters and us back to the police station. At the police station, we recorded our statements, and after we finished taking the statement, a policeman called me aside. Mr. Lin, we checked and found that the person who ordered the group of thugs to beat you was called to you, said the police. I gritted my teeth and said, it's him. Now that things have come to this, I don't have to endure it anymore. Chapter 25. I called to you directly. Do you? Did you call these people here? I grabbed the phone and yelled at the person on the other end of the receiver. Brother Lin, why don't I understand what you are saying? Do you's annoying voice came from the other end of the phone, with a sense of hypocritical innocence. Don't you understand? You ordered people to block me and you're still pretending to be stupid. I was so angry that I almost laughed. This guy is really good at pretending to be stupid. There was silence on the other end of the phone for a few seconds, and then you chuckled. Brother Lin, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. Which eye of yours saw me ordering people around? Besides, I have nothing to do, why would I find someone to block you? Do you, stop acting in front of me. I took a deep breath and tried to suppress my anger. Don't think I don't know about that little thing between you and Tang Wan. There was another silence on the other end of the phone. This time, I could sense the change in Duyu's tone. He was no longer smiling and laughing, but now he was speaking in a cold tone. Brother Lin, be careful with your words. Don't say anything out loud. Be careful of what you say. Do you, stop pretending. Do you really think I'm a fool for what happened between you and Tang Wan? I have all the records of checking in and transferring money. Do you really think you did it cleanly? I gritted my teeth and spoke word by word, almost breaking them. You are just a fucking gigolo. If you didn't rely on me, who would you be? There was silence for a moment on the other end of the phone, and then Duyu's sinister voice came. Lin Feng, stop slandering me. What evidence do you have? Show it to me. Evidence? You want evidence, right? Okay, beg me. Kneel down and beg me, call me grandpa, and I will consider showing you the evidence. How about that? I sneered and deliberately used the most vicious words to humiliate him. I wanted to trample him into the dirt and let him taste the feeling of despair. The breathing on the other end of the phone became noticeably heavier, and Duyu's voice seemed to be squeezed out from between his teeth. Lin Feng, don't go too far. I'm going too far? Why didn't you admit that you were going too far when you were trying to steal my girl? You're a complete and utter despicable person. I sneered repeatedly, as if to vent all my anger. I'm telling you, I have all the evidence of your crimes in my hands. Tax evasion, embezzlement, corruption and bribery, all the good things you've done are enough to keep you in jail for life. There was another silence on the other end of the phone. I could sense Duyu's panic. His tone was no longer as arrogant as before, but was replaced by a slight tremor. What do you want? What do I want? It's simple. I want you to pay the price. I said word by word, I want you to be ruined and live in regret and pain for the rest of your life. Lin Feng, don't go too far. Even a rabbit bites when it's angry. There was a hint of despair in Duyu's voice. I went too far? Har 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 har. I couldn't help but burst into laughter. Duyu, just wait for death. Lin Feng, don't refuse a toast and then drink a forfeit. Duyu finally broke his disguise and said viciously, who do you think you are? Do you think you are worthy enough to fight me? Whether I am worthy or not, you will know if you try it. I shot back without showing any weakness. We will see. I hung up the phone, feeling cold in my heart. I know that Duyu and I have completely fallen out, and he will definitely not let it go. After hanging up the phone, Duyu was breathing heavily, his face pale, and he looked at Tang Wan beside him. It's over. Lin Feng said that he had already compiled the evidence about the two of us. Chapter 26. Tang Wan's face turned pale instantly and she tightly grasped Duyu's hand. What do we do now? But I have already transferred most of his property during this period. At worst, they can sue us for bigamy. That should be fine, right? Duyu almost gritted his teeth while speaking. If only it were that easy. Just now on the phone, Lin Feng told me that he has already turned our economic crimes into evidence, and he will make us spend the rest of our lives in jail. And I suspect he must have known about our daughter a long time ago, so the last time he was at the police station was to look for his own daughter. If he turns this into evidence, we'll really be in jail for the rest of our lives. At this point, Tang Wan could no longer maintain her outward dignity and stood up in panic. Duyu, find a solution quickly. Duyu frowned, somewhat impatient with Tang Wan's surprise. You are panicking now, what can you do? Don't bother me, aren't you thinking? Duyu rolled his eyes and said ruthlessly. Do you still remember who Lin Feng's enemies are? As the saying goes, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Let's go find his enemies and kill Lin Feng once and for all. His voice sounded like a demon crawling out of hell, gritting his teeth. Tang Wan on the side nodded repeatedly. I remember. Of course I remember. I'll go get you the information about Lin Feng's enemies right now. As she spoke, she lay softly beside Duyu's shoulder. Our life or death depends entirely on you. Night. Are you sure this is okay? Lin Feng's former enemies were all ruthless and cruel. If we go find them, will it be possible? Tang Wan sat in the passenger seat, twisting her fingers nervously, her delicate makeup unable to hide the panic in her eyes. What are you afraid of? Now we are begging them to do things for us. As long as the price is right, they don't care who we are. Duyu interrupted her impatiently. Besides, Lin Feng has pushed us to this point, why should we be polite to him? If he dies, the evidence in his hands will naturally be gone. Then won't we be able to control him? Tang Wan bit her lip and said nothing more. She just looked at the passing scenery outside the window with a wondering look in her eyes. Their first target was the owner of a nightclub in the west of the city, known as Brother Kuan. When he was a lawyer, Lin Feng had this man imprisoned for several years. Duyu felt that based on this relationship, Brother Kuan would definitely be willing to help him. The nightclub was filled with smoke and the deafening music almost shattered one's eardrums. Duyu and Tang Wan sat in a dim corner, looking out of place like two little white rabbits who had strayed into a wolf pack. Brother Kuan is here. Tang Wan pointed at a burly man with a face full of flesh and nervously pulled Du Yu's sleeve. Du Yu straightened his collar, put on what he thought was a kind smile, and greeted him. Brother Kuan, hello, I'm Du Yu, I've heard a lot about you. Brother Kuan glanced at him with disdain in his eyes. Who are you? Do I know you? Chapter 27. The smile on Du Yu's face froze, but he still smiled and said, Brother Kuan is very busy, so of course he doesn't remember me. But I came here today to discuss a business deal with you, which is related to Lin Feng. Lin Feng. Brother Kuan sneered as if he had heard something funny. What? That kid is in such a miserable state now, and you still want to get close to me. Du Yu was stunned for a moment, and explained awkwardly, Brother Kuan, you misunderstood, I came to. Okay, stop beating around the bush here. I'm not interested in your crap. Brother Kuan waved his hands impatiently. Let me help you deal with Lin Feng. Are you qualified? His words were mixed with a disdainful laugh. Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself? You think you can order me around? Du Yu's face turned pale and blue, while Tang Wan nervously grabbed his hand with her eyes wide open. Brother Kuan, don't get me wrong, I'm desperate, right? Du Yu lowered his voice, his tone full of flattery. You also know that I have some conflicts with that kid Lin Feng, and now he has something on me, so I am not celebrating a festival. You're telling me you have a grudge against Lin Feng? Har har har. Brother Kuan seemed to have heard a huge joke and laughed so hard that Du Yu felt creepy. How did you get close to Lin Feng and how did you sleep with his wife? Do you really think I don't know? What I despise the most is a male mistress like you. Tang Wan's face changed and she subconsciously wanted to refute, but Du Yu covered her mouth. Brother Kuan, please stop joking with me. Lin Feng was blind at the time and couldn't give one happiness. Du Yu broke out in a cold sweat. Now he could only hope that the other party would help him for the sake of money. Are you kidding? I'm not kidding you. Brother Kuan's tone suddenly became fierce. Besides, I hate it most when someone uses me as a tool. Get lost. Don't f-king dirty my land. Brother Kuan yelled impatiently, if I hear any news about you again, I'll make you disappear forever. Du Yu slumped on the ground, his face full of despair. He knew that he was really at his wits' end this time. What should we do? What should we do now? Tang Wan cried and threw herself into Du Yu's arms, her body trembling. Du Yu wanted to say something else, but was stopped by the two burly men behind Brother Kuan. Our eldest brother has already made it very clear, why don't you get out of here? Du Yu and Tang Wan came out of the nightclub in dejection, their faces burning as if they had been slapped hard several times. This old man actually dared not give us face. Du Yu kicked the trash can on the side of the road in frustration. Tang Wan was also disappointed, but she still tried to stay calm and comforted Du Yu. Don't be discouraged, let's think of other ways. Lin Feng has so many enemies, there will always be someone willing to help us. Du Yu took a deep breath, trying to calm the anger in his heart. His eyes were sinister. Lin Feng, just wait, we'll see. After an afternoon of ups and downs. Especially Brother Kuan's attitude just now. Tang Wan was so frightened that she was at a loss. Looking at Du Yu's gloomy expression, she shuddered. How about we go and talk to Lin Feng about it? He is a very easy person to talk to. We just need to apologize to him and return his things to him. Maybe he will be willing to forgive me. There was silence. After a moment, Du Yu turned his head and looked at Tang Wan, his eyes full of bloodshot. Chapter 28. Don't dream. He will definitely not let us go. He would like both of us to die right now. Du Yu's eyes were red as he shook off Tang Wan's hand. If it weren't for you, would I have provoked Lin Feng? Would I have ended up like this? Tang Wan shrank back when I yelled at her, her eyes reddened again. Don't be like this, I'm doing this for our own good. For our own good? You're telling me it's for our own good now? Du Yu laughed angrily. Who was the one who cried and shouted for divorce and wanted to be with me? Now that Lin Feng has come to me, you want me to beg him again? Tang Wan bit her lip, lowered her head and said nothing, tears falling down her face. Cry. All you do is cry. What else can you do besides crying? Du Yu scratched his hair in annoyance. Tang Wan also got angry and pointed at Du Yu and cursed. You only know how to criticize me. What qualifications do you have to criticize me? If you hadn't used sweet words to trick me, I might still be following Raymond Lamb and enjoying the life of a rich wife. Now that something has happened, you just want to put all the blame on me. Are you still a man? When you heard this, he was completely furious. What did you say? Rich lady? Okay, go back to find Raymond Lamb now and see if he will forgive you. The two quarreled for a long time, and Tang Wan was crying with a look of grievance on her face. Du panted heavily and looked at Chang Wan fiercely for a long time. Finally, he picked up the cigarette box from his bag and closed the door with a bang. No, I can't just sit there and wait for death. Tang Wan looked at his back, clenched her phone, and her fingertips turned white. My phone rang. When I saw the caller was Tang Wan, I sneered. That bitch Tang Wan actually had the nerve to call me. Lin Feng, please, let us go. Du and I know we are wrong, we really know we are wrong. On the other end of the phone, Tang Wan's voice was filled with tears, as if she was singing a bad love story. Let you go? When you two were having an affair, why didn't you think of letting me go? I sneered, my tone full of sarcasm. Are you scared now? It's too late. No, Lin Feng, please listen to my explanation. Tang Wan wanted to argue, but was rudely interrupted by me. Explain. Explain what? Explain how you climbed into Du's bed in the first place, and how you transferred all my hard-earned money into his account. And my mom, and Eloor's matter, can you explain them all? I became angrier and angrier as I spoke, and my voice unconsciously rose an octave. Logan, I must have been blind to fall for a vicious woman like you. There was silence on the other end of the phone for a moment, and Tang Wan's voice lowered with a hint of pleading. Lin Feng, I know I was wrong, I really know I was wrong. For the sake of our marriage, please let us go this time. I beg you. A couple. I felt like I had heard a huge joke and couldn't help but burst out laughing. Tang Wan, you still have the nerve to talk about husband and wife with me. Ask yourself, from the moment you got together with Du, did you still consider me as your husband? Tang Wan was speechless after my question and could only sob softly. Stop crying. Your tears are worthless to me. I frowned in disgust. Tang Wan, I'm telling you, don't even think about me forgiving you in this life. I'm going to make you and Du pay for what you did. After saying that, I hung up the phone. Chapter 29. Looking at the empty screen of her mobile phone, Tang Wan could no longer suppress the fear in her heart and cried out while trembling. Her voice was so loud that Du, who was walking around in the bedroom, also heard it. Du walked out of the bedroom and frowned when he saw Tang Wan, who was in despair in the living room. What are you doing again? After saying that, he realized something was wrong and snatched Tang Wan's cell phone while she was still not reacting. Looking at the phone number on the call record, Du was stunned. Tang Wan swallowed and quickly snatched the phone. But Du's strength is astonishingly great. She didn't even dare to raise her head, but she knew how scary Du's expression was. The cold air emanating from his body enveloped her, as if it was going to eat her in the next second. After a long while, Tang Wan said tremblingly, You, don't be angry, I'm trying to find a solution for you, right? She knew that Du cared most about his reputation, but she had gone against Du's wishes and had to ask me for help. He would definitely be very angry. As expected. Du seemed to have just come to his senses and was furious. Cry, 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 just cry. Du threw Tang Wan's cell phone to the ground. With a bang, the phone broke into pieces, and Tang Wan's heart was also broken into pieces. If I were Lin Feng, I would definitely want to chop both of us into pieces for doing these things. You are still begging him for help. I think you are really crazy. You enjoy making fun of yourself, don't you? Brainless thing. Do you? Are you crazy? Tang Wan screamed in despair, as if she wanted to vent all her grievances. I'm doing this for your own good. Du sneered, his eyes full of sarcasm. Tang Wan, stop pretending. If you hadn't cried and begged to be with me, would I have been kicked out by Lin Feng? Are you scared now? It's too late. You. Tang Wan was so angry that she was shaking all over. She pointed at Du's nose and cursed. Du, are you still a man? You only know how to put the blame on me. If you have the guts, go find Lin Feng yourself. Of course I will go find him, but not now. Du's eyes flashed with ruthlessness. He grabbed Tang Wan's hair and forced her to look up at him. Listen to me now. Listen to me obediently. I will find a way. Do you didn't say anything else, but the fierceness in his eyes said it all. Is this still the Do you she knew? She clearly remembered that Do you was gentle, considerate and attentive before. He treated her like a treasure in his hand. Sure enough, all men are the same. Tang Wan was so frightened by him that she trembled and could only nod weakly. That's good. Do you smiled with satisfaction, let go of Tang Wan's hair, picked up his coat and prepared to go out. Where are you going? Tang Wan asked timidly. I'll go find someone else and ask if there is any way to solve this problem. Do you said without turning his head. Looking at Do Yu's departing back, Tang Wan collapsed on the ground, covering her face in despair, tears streaming through her fingers. Chapter 30. She knew that she had fallen into an abyss from which there was no escape, and that all this was her own fault. I hung up the phone and threw it on the table, my eyes full of sneer. Tang Wan, this stupid woman, actually wants me to let them go? It's just wishful thinking. However, the most urgent task is to find a good school for Iluor. She must have fallen behind in her studies after spending so many years in the welfare home. After thinking it over, I decided to call Li Mingyuan. After all, over the years, the law firm that Li Mingyuan and I opened has been becoming more and more prosperous. I must have met a lot of people. I have been blind for so many years, and Li Mingyuan is the only one who is willing to contact me. I was thinking about his kindness in my heart, and thought that after I had resolved Tang Wan and the US issues, I would thank Li Mingyuan properly. Hello, Mingyuan. Brother Feng? What brings you here? I sorted out my words and said. Iluor has been found. The person on the other end of the phone was stunned, and Li Mingyuan's excited voice came. That's good. I was just about to tell you that I haven't found any clues about Iluor's case for such a long time. I'm so sorry. I was touched. At the same time, there is unspeakable complexity. I was so good to Do You, but not only did he not thank me, he also did so many things worse than pigs and dogs. Back then, I just helped Li Mingyuan and allowed him to join my law firm, and he has always been grateful for this favor. There is indeed a huge difference between people. Mingyuan, we are family and we should keep our distance. Don't be so polite to me in the future. I should thank you. Iluor suffered a lot in the welfare home. I want to bring her to live with me. Is there any good elementary school nearby? Can you help me find one? Li Mingyuan immediately understood what I meant when he heard it. Don't worry, brother. I'll find it for you right away. 3 days later. I received another call from Li Mingyuan. Brother Feng, I'll ask about the school for you. Chaoyang Primary School is the best one nearby, but... Li Mingyuan paused, wanting to say something but stopping himself. But what? You're still hesitating with me, kid. I held the phone between my ear and shoulder, freeing my hands to tidy up Iluor's clothes. The little girl had just come out of an orphanage, and she was wearing old clothes donated by others. Although they were washed clean, they still looked pitiful. Chaoyang Primary School is private, with high admission requirements, requiring school district housing and parent interviews. School district housing. I sighed, this is really a difficult problem. If I hadn't been deceived by that woman Tang Wan, how could I have registered the house under her name? Now, I have no money and no house, and it's hard to find a good school for Iluor. Brother Feng, don't worry too much. There will always be a way out when the car reaches the mountain. If it really doesn't work. Chapter 31. What's the problem? If it really doesn't work, I'll try to find some connections to see if I can make an exception and allow Iluor to enroll. That won't do. How can I make things difficult for you? I refused. I will figure out a way to deal with this myself, don't worry. After hanging up the phone, I looked down at Iluor. The little girl was fiddling with a tattered doll in her hand. It was a legacy of the welfare home. I don't know which kind-hearted person donated it. It was already tattered and missing an eye. Iluor, do you want to go to the best primary school? I ruffled her hair with a gentle tone. Yes. Iluor's eyes sparkled like the brightest stars in the night sky. My friends in the welfare home all said that Chaoyang Primary School is great, with pretty teachers and lots of toys. Okay, then Dad will send you to Chaoyang Primary School. I spoke in a firm tone, and secretly swore in my heart that even if it cost me my life, I would let Elor live the best life. I took Elor shopping in the mall for an afternoon and bought her a few new clothes. The little girl's face was filled with a happy smile. I looked at her happy face and felt mixed emotions. My poor daughter, she lost her mother's love since childhood. Now she has finally found her father, but she has to live a hard life with me again. Dad, thank you. Elor said timidly while holding the newly bought doll. Silly girl, why are you being so polite to your dad? I smiled and scratched her nose. Come on, Daddy will take you to eat delicious food. Yeah. Seeing Elor cheering so happily, the haze in my heart was swept away. Tang Wan, do you two dogs just wait for me, I will make you pay the price. The next morning, I contacted a lawyer and prepared to sue Tang Wan and do you. Mr. Lin, based on the evidence you provided, we can sue you for bigamy and Tang Wan for fraud. The lawyer pushed up his glasses and spoke in a serious tone. Okay, then let's do as you say. I said coldly, we must make them lose all their reputation and leave their house. Mr. Lin, don't worry, we will do our best to protect your legal rights. Walking out of the law firm, I looked up at the sky. It was covered with dark clouds, which seemed to indicate that a storm was about to come. I took a deep breath and looked determined. The good show has just begun. Just then, my cell phone suddenly rang. The words, "Do you?" flashed on the screen. I took a deep breath and answered the phone. My tone was as cold as if I had just pulled it out of an ice cellar. You dare to call me? Do you's disgusting sneer came from the other end of the phone. Hey, Lawyer Lin actually answered the phone. I wanted to ask you, have you collected enough money for a lawyer? I suppressed my anger and said through gritted teeth, don't be too proud too soon. Just wait for the lawyer's letter. Har har har, just you. Do you's laughter became even more rampant. You are poor man, what can you use to fight me? He paused, and his tone suddenly became sinister and vicious. Also, do you think those evidences are really useful? I tell you, if you stay at home honestly, I can give you some compensation. But, if you dare to sue me, I will make you pay for it. I wanted to crawl along the telephone line and strangle this despicable man to death. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself down. Don't fall into his trap. Chapter 32. He is deliberately provoking me, trying to make me lose my mind and do something out of line. Then the law won't be able to help me. I sneered and said calmly. Do you think I'm afraid of you? If you have the guts, kill me. Otherwise, I will make you pay the price. After saying that, I hung up the phone without hesitation and threw the phone hard on the sofa. Damn do you! How dare you threaten me? I clenched my fists tightly, with anger burning in my heart. At this time, Elor came over timidly, tugged at the corner of my clothes, and asked softly, Dad, what's wrong with you? Who made you angry? Looking at my daughter's innocent eyes, most of the anger in my heart dissipated immediately. I forced a smile, stroked her hair, and said softly, It's okay, Dad just ran into a little trouble, it will be solved soon. Really? Elor tilted her head and asked innocently. Of course it's true. I smiled and nodded. When has Dad ever lied to you? Yeah. Elor laughed happily, revealing two sweet dimples. Looking at my daughter's innocent smile, I secretly swore in my heart that no matter what, I would protect her and give her a happy childhood. The next day, I just woke up and when I opened my eyes, I saw the WeChat message from my lawyer. It is said that this appeal is likely to be rejected. My brain felt like it was hit by a hammer and was buzzing. After a moment's pause, I called my lawyer. Hello? What's going on? I paced back and forth anxiously, wishing I could crush the phone receiver. Mr. Lin, I'm sorry. The lawyer sounded embarrassed and said, The court said, there is insufficient evidence and the case will not be filed. What? I stopped abruptly, wondering if I had heard wrongly. Insufficient evidence? How is that possible? Marriage certificate, property certificate, and those photos and videos, isn't that enough? This. The lawyer hesitated. Mr. Lin, please don't worry, I will think of a way to see if I can. Don't think about it. They are all excuses. It must be that bastard Duyu's doing. I was so angry that I kicked over the coffee table. I suppressed my anger and hung up the phone forcefully. I felt like a huge rock was pressing on my chest and I couldn't breathe. Damn Duyu, does he think he can play with me like this? Is this the end of the matter? Let that bitch Tang Wan go unpunished. Let that bastard do you take over my property and my company? No, I will never give up. I just don't believe it. Is there no law in this world? Just when I was furious and almost losing my mind, there was a sudden and urgent doorbell ring. I raised my head suddenly. Could it be that the lawyer had come up with a new idea? I rushed to the door with hope and opened it. It's you? The person standing at the door was actually you. He was wearing a flashy pink suit today, his hair was combed shiny, and there was a disgusting sneer on his face, just like a cat that stole some fish. Hey, isn't this Lawyer Lin? Chapter 33. Do you said sarcastically, glancing at me sideways, why, where are you going so early in the morning? What are you doing here? I asked coldly, suppressing my anger. I'm here to kindly remind you. Do you said slowly, straightening his collar, don't waste your energy. You can't sue me. What do you mean? My heart tightened and an ominous premonition came over me. What do you mean? Har har, my dear brother-in-law, you are not really naive enough to think that you can do anything to me, right? Do you said this with a scornful smile on his face. You? To tell you the truth, I have already made arrangements with my connections. You can't do anything to me with the crappy evidence in your hands. Do you said smugly, his tone full of mockery, I advise you to go home and stop wasting time and money. You deserve to die. I cursed with gritted teeth, wishing I could rush up and tear his ugly face apart. Damn it. Do you laughed as if he had heard a funny joke. In this world, winners take all, and losers take all. If you lose, you can only accept your fate. As he spoke, he took out a bank card from his pocket, threw it at my feet, and said condescendingly, Here is $100,000, consider it as compensation for you. Take the money, get out of this city, and don't let me see you again. I looked down at the bank card on the ground, and the anger in my heart erupted like a volcano, almost swallowing me up. What? You think it's not enough? Then I'll give you some more. Do you said, and was about to reach for his wallet again. I couldn't keep calm anymore, so I went straight up, grabbed you by the collar and punched him. Bang! Do you obviously didn't expect my sudden attack. He had no time to dodge and was hit by my punch. He screamed and fell to the ground in embarrassment. You dare to hit me. Do you covered his nose and looked at me in disbelief. Blood flowed out from between his fingers, staining his shirt red. I'm going to hit you. I roared, rode on him, and rained punches on his face and chest. You beast. I'm going to beat you to death today. If it weren't for me, you, a dog-like thing, would have died long ago. I was like an enraged beast, madly venting the anger and humiliation in my heart. Stop. Stop it right there. Do you shouted in panic and struggled desperately, but I was incredibly strong and he couldn't break free at all. Security. Security. Someone come quickly. Someone is causing trouble. Do you shouted at the top of his voice. Soon, several security guards rushed over after hearing the noise, and were stunned when they saw the scene. What are you still standing there for? Pull him away quickly. Do you saw the security guard and shouted as if he had grabbed a life-saving straw. Several security guards looked at each other, hesitating and not daring to step forward. I am the VIP here. If you don't take action now, believe it or not, I will make you pay for it. Do you shouted hysterically. When they heard the word VIP, several security guards rushed over as if they had received some instructions and pulled me away from you. You bunch of good-for-nothings. Didn't you see I got beaten? Hurry up and arrest this guy. Do you covered his nose and roared at the top of his lungs. Blood from his nose dripped through his fingers onto his expensive shirt, making him look awful. After he yelled at them, the security guards looked at each other in bewilderment. I think these two people's identities seem to be not simple. Why don't we call the police? Yeah, when the gods fight, the little devils suffer. Chapter 34. Call the police? Call. Call now. I panted and shouted at you, I want to see who is right in this matter today. Seeing that I was not afraid of any trouble, several security guards looked at each other and did not dare to act rashly. You, however, covered his nose, his face covered in blood, pointed at me angrily, and yelled at the security guard. What are you still standing there for? Catch him. I'll take responsibility if anything goes wrong. I sneered and spat on the ground. Bear it? Can you bear it? You are a coward who lives off me. If it weren't for me. Shut up. Do you jumped up like a cat whose tail was stepped on. If the security guard hadn't stopped him, he would have pounced on me and fought me to the death again. Soon, the sound of sirens came from far away, and a group of uniformed police officers rushed into their hotel. I was taken into the police car and arrived at the police station. Du immediately changed his expression, covered his nose, pretended to be pitiful, and cried to the police about how I beat him up and how unreasonable I was. I wanted to laugh when I heard it. It's a shame if he doesn't use his acting skills to act. Police comrade, you have to help me. This guy is simply a lunatic. He started fighting over a disagreement. Look how badly he beat me. How can I still face others with my face like this? I rolled my eyes and bluntly exposed him. Comrade police officer, this is pure slander. He was the first to speak rudely and insult me, so I took action. You're talking nonsense. Du immediately retorted, when did I insult you? Show me the evidence. What evidence do I need to produce? I sneered, don't you know what you have done? You and Tang Wan. Enough. Du interrupted me abruptly, his eyes flickering, obviously feeling guilty. Of course I wouldn't let him go just like that. I told the police everything about the adulterous couple Du and Tang Wan. After listening to my story, the policeman's expression became a little subtle, and the look in his eyes when he looked at Du became meaningful. Fellow police officer, don't listen to his nonsense. He is deliberately taking revenge on me. Du panicked and explained incoherently, Tang Wan and I are innocent, there is nothing wrong. Ahem. The policeman was professional after all, and he knocked on the table seriously. Although I sympathize with your situation and understand why you hit someone, hitting someone does violate the Public Security Administration punishment law and you will be detained or fined. Du immediately breathed a sigh of relief, as if he felt he had the upper hand, and glanced at me triumphantly. However, you can file a civil lawsuit for what you did, the police advised me kindly. Du snorted coldly, rubbed his wrist, and said unhappily. It's strange that his wife likes a violent man like him. He deserves it. You can eat whatever you want, but don't say anything you want. I flew into a rage and pointed at Du's face. This guy is so shameless. You want to be beaten again? All right, stop talking. The policeman waved his hands impatiently, we already understand what happened. If you have any conflicts, it's best to resolve them privately. Settlement privately. Impossible. Du refused without a second thought. He glared at me fiercely and said through gritted teeth, Police comrade, I demand that he be severely punished. He committed the crime of intentional injury and must be put in jail. Even if it means being detained for 15 days. I couldn't help but laugh. This grandson is really vindictive. It was just a punch from me, right? Is it necessary to kill him so ruthlessly? What are you laughing at? Du got even more angry when he saw me laughing. Just wait, I won't let you go. I shrugged and said nonchalantly, whatever you want, who's afraid of who? That's enough. The police knocked on the table again to stop our quarrel. Do you want to settle it privately? If not, we will go through the legal process. If necessary, we will detain you and sentence you. Chapter 35. Du said without hesitation. No private settlement. Police comrades, I firmly demand that we go through legal procedures. I sneered and said slowly. Du, don't think I don't know what you are planning. You want to use this method to force me to surrender and make me give up suing you, right? Du's face changed and his eyes flickered. It was obvious that what I said hit home on his mind. Just then, my cell phone rang. It was Wang Ruohan calling. Hey, Ruohan, what's wrong? The police nodded. I answered the phone, walked aside, and asked in a low voice. Where are you? Why haven't you come back yet? Wang Ruohan's voice sounded a little anxious. I'm at the police station. I sighed. Police station? What are you going to the police station for? Then, I told Wang Ruohan the whole story between me and Du. Du is such a disgusting guy and he deserves a beating. After listening, Wang Ruohan said viciously. I can almost imagine how this heroic young lady hates evil. That scene made me laugh so hard that I felt much better. I comforted him, it's okay, it will only take 15 days at most, I'll be out soon. That is. At this point, I find it a little hard to say. During these 15 days, could you please, help me keep an eye on Eluor. It's okay if you can't. I've been really bothering you lately. Really? Thank you so much. I said this very sincerely. The person on the other end of the phone was stunned. I felt guilty for bothering others again, and couldn't help thinking, I must repay Wang Ruohan well in the future. At this moment, Wang Ruohan finally reacted and chuckled. Okay, don't be so polite, or I'll be embarrassed to ask you to repay me in the future. Thanks. After a moment's silence, I could only respond to her with such weak words. Wang Ruohan hung up the phone with me, but Du was still yelling. I just stared at Du coldly, making him feel cold all over. Look at him, police officer. He has no remorse at all. Catch him quickly and give him a good education. Of course Du knew that since I was the one who took the initiative, I must be in the wrong now. Therefore, he was very proud. Although the police were very disgusted with Du's behavior. But the law is the law, and human feelings are human feelings. Although because of Du's disgusting behavior, my sentence may be mitigated. But detention is inevitable. The policeman finally took his eyes off the computer screen and waved his hand impatiently. All right, stop arguing. It's already this late and you're still arguing here. We'll talk about your business later. After that, he answered a phone call, and his tone immediately became respectful. Yes, I understand, I will do it right away. Chapter 36. My heart skipped a beat and an ominous premonition came over me. What? No need to deal with it. The police suddenly raised their voices, and I pricked up my ears, afraid to miss a word. Okay, I got it, I'll let them go right away. I watched in amazement as the police hung up the phone. Wasn't this a very quick plot twist? Du was also stunned. He opened his mouth like a fool and couldn't say anything for a long time. Okay, both of you go now. Be more careful next time and don't waste police resources on things like this. The policeman waved his hands impatiently, as if shooing away a fly. Why? Du finally reacted and pointed at my nose and cursed, Police comrade, he hit me, how could you not deal with him? I want to file a complaint against you. The police rolled their eyes at him. Complain against me? Don't you see what you have done? I tell you, if it weren't for your young age, I would arrest you right now. Du was so frightened that his face turned pale and he dared not speak anymore. I was secretly happy, you deserve it. Let your grandson be so arrogant again. I walked up to Du, patted his face, and said with a smile, how is it? Does it taste bad? Be more careful with your mouth next time, otherwise. I paused for a moment on purpose, and when I saw Du trembling with fear, I continued, otherwise, I will let you experience real pain. After saying that, I walked out of the police station without looking back. When I got to the door, I remembered that when the police answered the phone just now, he seemed to have mentioned words like, say hello from above. Could it be, Wang Ruohan? I took out my cell phone, hesitated for a moment, and dialed Wang Ruohan's number. Hello? Are you okay? Wang Ruohan's anxious voice came from the other end of the phone. My heart warmed up and I smiled and said, what can happen to me? Thanks to you, everything is fine now. That's good, that's good. Wang Ruohan was obviously relieved. Where are you now? I'll pick you up. No need, I can take a taxi back by myself. I rejected Wang Ruohan's kindness. Well, be careful. After hanging up the phone, I sighed. No wonder Du likes to make connections, it feels so good to cling to someone powerful. A blessing in disguise. Ever since I found out about Tang Wan's affair, I thought I was the most unlucky person in the world. But I didn't expect that I, the most unlucky person, would actually meet such a kind friend like Wang Ruohan. Oh, so that's how it is. Wang Ruohan listened to the person on the other end of the phone and suddenly realized something about her investigation into Du. It seems that this guy is really good at talking. I actually got to know so many small leaders. Wang Ruohan seemed to be thinking about something, then hung up the phone. Just then, the nanny's voice greeted me at the door. Welcome home, sir. Wang Ruohan looked up and saw Chairman Zhu changing his slippers at the door. Dad. You're back. Hey Ruohan, have you eaten? Have eaten. Wang Ruohan said with a smile. Chapter 37. Chairman Zhu has only one daughter, Wang Ruohan, and the relationship between father and daughter is beyond words. Chairman Zhu was like holding Wang Ruohan in his mouth for fear that she would melt, and holding her in his palm for fear that she would fall. Dad, do you have an investment project in Jiang City that you want to discuss recently? Wang Ruohan asked tentatively. Chairman Zhu sat on the sofa and sipped his tea leisurely. Hearing this, he looked up at Wang Ruohan and said with a smile, "Hey, when did our eldest daughter start to care about the company's business?" I walked over to him and sat down, saying casually, "I'm just concerned about you. I heard that Jiang City has been developing well recently, and many people want to go there to get a piece of the pie." "Har har, you are well informed." Chairman Zhu put down his teacup and said with a smile, "But the situation in Jiang City is complicated and deep. Not everyone can intervene." Wang Ruohan's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that her father had heard about the Jiang City project a long time ago, and judging from his tone, this project did not seem to be simple. She suppressed her doubts and continued to ask, "Dad, do you plan to go to Jiang City to take a look?" Chairman Zhu picked up the teacup, blew gently on the tea leaves, and said slowly, "What? You want me to support your friend?" Wang Ruohan pretended to be surprised and said, "Dad, how did you know?" Chairman Zhu laughed out loud. "Can't I see through your little tricks? Tell me, who made our young lady unhappy?" Wang Ruohan hesitated for a moment, but decided to tell Chairman Zhu about you. She briefly recounted what had happened, and then said, "Dad, please help me find out who is backing you." After hearing her story, Chairman Zhu's face suddenly darkened. He put down his teacup and said in a deep voice, "How ridiculous. It's disgusting. But, why did you help Lin Feng?" Chairman Zhu looked over with a meaningful look. Wang Ruohan shook her head and said sincerely, "Dad, I don't have any feelings for Lin Feng. I just treat him as a friend." Chairman Zhu breathed a sigh of relief at a speed visible to the naked eye. "That's good." He patted Wang Ruohan's hand and said, "Don't worry, Dad will help you." Wang Ruohan finally breathed a sigh of relief. With her father taking action, she didn't believe that she couldn't deal with that bastard Yu. The next day, I followed my lawyer to the court again. After arriving at the court, I handed over the evidence that Yu and Tang Wan were caught in bed together without saying a word. "Mr. Lin, we have carefully reviewed the evidence you provided. Sorry, these do not constitute direct evidence." In the courtroom, a middle-aged judge with thinning hair pushed my documents back impatiently and said, "We will not accept your appeal." "What do you mean it can't constitute direct evidence? Isn't the video of catching an adulterer in bed direct enough?" I slammed the table, furious. "What is direct evidence? Do you want me to broadcast live how they make love on my bed?" "Lin Feng, watch your words." The judge adjusted his glasses and said seriously, "You are disrupting the judicial order. I can sue you for defamation. Go ahead and sue me. I'm not afraid of you." I grabbed his collar, my eyes red. "I want to see if there is still law in broad daylight." "Lin Feng, calm down." The lawyer beside me quickly pulled me back and whispered, "This is a court, don't be impulsive." I took a deep breath and tried to suppress the anger in my heart. Chapter 38. I know the lawyer is right. This is a court, not a place where I can act wildly. But when I think of Yu and Tang Wan, that couple who are at large, I want to rush up and die with them. Okay, I won't sue. I pushed the judge away and said through gritted teeth, "But this matter is not over yet. I will make you pay the price." I turned around to leave, but I heard a disgusting sneer behind me. "Hey, isn't this Lawyer Lin? What happened? Did you run into a wall in court again?" I turned around suddenly and saw Yu, wearing a designer suit and with a sarcastic smile on his face, walking in with a swagger. "You still have the nerve to appear in front of me." I was so furious that I wanted to rush up and tear his hypocritical face apart. Why am I ashamed?" Yu put his hands in his pockets, with a look of contempt on his face, "But you, instead of reflecting on yourself at home, ran to the court to embarrass yourself. Don't you think it's ridiculous?" I was so angry that I was shaking all over, but I couldn't say a word. "What do you mean by I?" Yu stepped forward and said in a voice that only the two of us could hear, "I advise you to give up on this idea. You can't beat me. Tang Wan is my woman now, and your company will soon be mine too. What else do you have?" He reached out and patted my face, as if he was looking at a lost dog. "Accept your fate, Lin Feng, you've already lost, and you've lost miserably. I was about to rush up and punch you in the face, but was held back by the lawyer. Lin Feng, calm down. Don't be impulsive. He lowered his voice, but he could not hide the panic in his tone. Of course I know this is a court, and I also know that impulse will not solve the problem. But when I see Yu's smug face, I get angry. What, you want to fight? Come on, hit me here. Yu pointed at his face arrogantly, his eyes full of provocation. What, are you scared? Lawyer Lin, that's all you can do. You. I was so angry that I felt dizzy. If the lawyer hadn't been holding me tightly, I was afraid that I would do something irrational. Just then, there was a sudden commotion at the door of the court hall. Hey, Director Wang, what brings you here? I saw the judge who had been indifferent to me before immediately walked forward, bowing and nodding behind a middle-aged man. His flattering face was simply disgusting. I sneered in my heart, it seems that a bigger fish has come. These days, it is really frustrating to compare yourself with others. Director Wang? Which Director Wang? Is there a director named Wang in the court? I asked the lawyer in a low voice, but the lawyer did not answer, his expression just became more and more ugly. At this time, the judge said to a young man next to him in a more respectful manner, Hey, Secretary Zhang, why are you here too? Only then did I notice that the young man following the middle-aged man was someone I had actually seen on TV. Isn't he the secretary of Mayor Zhao of Jiangcheng City? Why did the mayor's secretary come to the court in person? Secretary Zhang? Which Secretary Zhang? Is there a secretary named Zhang in the court? I asked the lawyer again, and this time the lawyer was even more exaggerated. He directly reached out and wiped the sweat from his forehead. My heart skipped a beat and an ominous premonition came over me. Could it be that? At this time, I heard the judge who had ignored me before, with an expression uglier than the death of his parents, tremblingly said to the middle-aged man, Ju. The middle-aged man walked straight towards me. Are you Lin Feng? His tone was calm, but with an aura of majesty that came from not even being angry. I nodded subconsciously. What's going on? He turned to look at the judge with sparse hair and his tone became a little stern. Chapter 39. The judge was so frightened that his face turned pale and he stammered, Mr. Ju, this person. Ju Dong. I was shocked. Could it be? At this moment, I noticed a man standing behind Jay Cho and immediately gasped. Isn't that the mayor? I've seen him a few times, there's no doubt about it. My God, who is this Jay Cho? Even the mayor has to follow him? I don't care who you are or what your background is. This is a court, not a place where you can act wild. Jay Cho narrowed his eyes. As a public official, you are not enforcing the law impartially and bending the law for personal gain. You are simply breaking the law knowingly. He turned his head and looked at the mayor beside him. This is the order of your Jiang City. The judge was so frightened that his legs went limp, and he fell to his knees with a thud. Mr. J, I was wrong, I won't dare to do it again. The mayor also wiped the sweat from his forehead and said carefully. Please excuse me, Mr. J. This judge is probably new and doesn't know anything. Huh, you know you're wrong now. It's too late. Mr. Ju snorted coldly, turned his head and looked at me, his tone softened a little. Mr. Lin, don't worry, I will take care of this matter for you. Thank you, Mr. J. I nodded gratefully. Mr. Ju patted my shoulder, then turned to look at the frightened judge. As for you, he said in a cold tone, I will have someone investigate you thoroughly. If I find out that you have any tricks up your sleeve, you can expect to go to jail. The judge was so frightened that his face turned pale and he collapsed on the ground, with a foul smell coming from his crotch. As for, you standing aside. Ever since Jay Cho and his group came in, they have been completely dumbfounded. The mayor finally saw Yu. He frowned in disgust. If it weren't for this guy named Yu, he wouldn't have offended Jay Cho's friends. This is Jay Cho. Black 100 wins all. If he had known this, he would not have met Yu no matter how much Yu gave him. Are you Yu? The mayor suddenly asked Yu. Yu stood there like a wooden stake, his mouth wide open, not daring to even fart. The mayor frowned. What's wrong with this guy? How dare he put on airs in front of me? Are you mute? I asked you if you are Yu. Yes, I am Yu. This time Yu finally reacted and nodded hurriedly. The mayor snorted coldly and started to criticize Yu. You are such a good guy. As a businessman, you don't run your business properly. You know the law but you break it. You even rely on your money and power to choose unfair law enforcement in court, right? You was terrified. He did pay off the judge, but he never expected that it would lead to such a chain reaction. When did Raymond Lamb have such strong connections? You felt cold all over, as if he was thrown into an ice cellar. He pointed at himself and stammered, I. What do you mean? Chapter 40. The mayor glared at you fiercely, his saliva almost spraying on his face. You are so brave. Do you know who this is? Huh. You was already so frightened by Mr. Jew's aura that his legs were trembling. Now that he was scolded by the mayor, he was speechless and could only shake his head in obedience. This is Jew Group's general manager, Ju Qianhua. How dare you dare to touch the taboo? I think you are tired of living. The mayor pointed at my nose and roared at you. This Mr. Lin is Jay Cho's friend, how dare you? He didn't finish the rest of his sentence, but I knew what he wanted to say, which was simply, how dare you bully Jay Cho's friends? Ju Qianhua waved his hand, signaling the mayor to stop talking, then turned to look at me, his tone much gentler. Mr. Lin, don't be afraid. Tell me, how did this kid bully you? I, Ju, don't have any other abilities, but I have many friends and I can make a difference in both the black and white worlds. Today I want to see who dares to act wildly in my territory. I looked at Ju Qianhua gratefully, took a deep breath, and said slowly, Mr. Ju, this is a long story. I paused, glanced at you, who was standing beside me with a pale face, and then said, this to you, he used to be my best brother. I said it word by word, very hard. And he, and my wife, or my soon-to-be ex-wife, had an affair in my house while I was blind. Ju Qianhua and the mayor both showed surprised expressions. They obviously didn't expect that there was such a relationship between me, you and Tang Wan. I am ashamed to say that I was deceived by this adulterous couple. They teamed up to defraud the company and ruined my family. I clenched my fists and gritted my teeth, this to you, he not only took away my company, but also my wife. What's even more hateful is that they took away my daughter while I was blind. At this point, I choked up, they switched my daughter, sent her to an orphanage, and used a fake daughter to deceive me. Ju Qianhua's face turned livid, he slammed the table and roared. Beast! You are worse than a beast. The mayor was also filled with righteous indignation. He pointed at you and cursed. You are such a heartless person. Do you still have any humanity? Do you still have the law? You was frightened out of his wits. They didn't expect things to get to this point, and they didn't expect that I would know a big shot like Ju Qianhua. Ju Qianhua said coldly. I think the information that was just rejected for review can be reviewed now. Of course the mayor understood what Ju Qianhua meant. He nodded repeatedly, and then he noticed the judge who was standing by and nodding slightly, waiting to ask questions. Haven't you heard what Mr. Ju said yet? Why don't you hurry up and sort out the information? Well. The judge didn't dare to breathe and hated you very much. This guy brought bad luck to him. With Ju Qianhua here, everything can be done with half the effort. The documents were reviewed in the morning and the court session could begin in the afternoon. In court,